Is this working? Let me check. Let me check. Mic check? Okay. It's working. Guys, this is the first time I've ever streamed to YouTube, so I think we're working. Mystery Willow, what's up? I usually stream to Twitch, so I think I got YouTube set up for this. I think I got YouTube set up for this. Oh, I gotta sign in. How you doing, Mystery Willow? Thanks for being here. I gotta sign into my control panel. Not much. I'm about to react to Ren's 8 chapters, his life story. What are you up to today? I brought the tissues. Oh, Carol. I got mine ready too. Actually, that's not enough. I'm gonna need more. Hold on. Just in case, just in case. What's up, Miriam? Oh, thank you. That means a lot. And live the Telltale Heart connection. Oh, thank you. Chapters 1, 2, and 3. Can't wait to see the others. Oh, sweet. There's some songs at the end that you haven't reacted to yet. Oh. Oh. Oh no, okay. Hold on guys, sorry. I'm still getting things set up here. Oh, I need two-step verification. What? I just did this. Appreciate you being patient with me. Hold, please. Yes, it's me. It's me trying to sign in. Yes. Okay. Close. Got it. Okay. All right. Are we good? Can you... You guys can hear the video too, right?
Hello, everyone.
You can hear Ren talking right now. Loved your Cujo. Oh, thanks, Marine. Thank you. This is pretty cool. It's cool to be live, you know? Usually I'm going through reading comments after the fact, but it's nice to, it's cool to be able to interact with y'all. We hear it? Okay. All right, I think we're good. I think we're ready. Do you guys like the big screen with me smaller, or do you like this? I feel like I want to do it this way for this reaction. Just so we can all be focused on what we're watching, you know what I mean? Love Poe, and love Ren's use of literature, mythology, and cultural references. Oh, no. Oh, and guys, I don't know if you guys know about Avicii or have heard of Avicii. I just watched his, like, new documentary on Netflix. So I am in for a very emotional Sunday today. Big screen, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Thanks for the input, guys. All right, yeah, I watched Avicii's thing this morning, and it had me really emotional. And I was planning on doing this, and I'm like, man, I love Avicii too. I love Avicii too, Willow. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should do this today, but you know, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I'm ready. Here we go. Let's just jump right into it.
This is the first time I've done something like this before. I wanted to write it down because there's a lot and I didn't want to miss anything. And
Hey, Far From Heaven.
some parts of this might be a little bit uncomfortable to listen to, but I wanted to stay as true as possible to the story, not miss anything, for the sake of people who might be going through something similar, or for the sake of people who don't, but want to help understand a little bit more.
His song Wake Me Up came out the same month my husband. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, Willow. Yeah, that's... My dad passed away 4 years ago. I don't know, you just made me think about my mom, and... Yeah. I mean, life's full of ups and downs. It's a
I promise
wild
that
ride.
everything in this story is 100% true. Nothing is exaggerated for dramatic effect. Some names I don't mention and some details I don't go too far into or downplay them for the sake of the people around me. Timelines might occasionally be a little bit off, but that's just because I've had to write everything from memory from a time that was quite hazy. I asked before embarking on this journey with me that you all respect the privacy of myself and the people around me. You might be compelled to reach out to some of the people that I mentioned, cast...
It's been 11 years. Me and my son are doing well. Okay, I'm going to try not to pause it too much, guys, but I just want to say, preface this before I get too far into this. Some of y'all were saying I should do more music before I react to this, but I just found myself really wanting to know what these chapters were about and what he's got to say, because on some of his like more deep, sorrowful songs, I guess I'll say, I feel like this insight is what I'm missing to kind of like fully get that. Like when I watched How to Be Me and maybe even Chalk Outlines, like I feel like seeing these chapters first might have helped me have a better perspective on that. I'm glad I'm doing this too, Dottie. Thank you. Bedtime here, but love your growing channel. All right, Martin. Have a good night, man. This video will be up after it's live, so if you want to watch, you're still welcome. You just won't be live, but you should be able to watch the video, I'm hoping. I haven't done lives on YouTube before, so I think it'll save, and I should be able to like save it as a real video. Having a better understanding is a good thing. Yep.
From the people around me.
All right, here we go.
You might be compelled to reach out to some of the people that I mentioned, cast judgment, praise them, criticize them, and I ask you kindly not to. It's my choice to be in the public eye, and it's mine alone. This is the first time my story is on the public record in a concise way. Being in the public eye is strange. The more that I give to you, the less that I get to keep for myself. I don't find the experience of sharing particularly enjoyable. I don't so much like the questions that follow. And I'm not a medical expert, so I don't like to be seen as somebody with all the answers, because I don't have them. And because of the empathy that I feel, I'm compelled to try and help as many people as possible. But the last time I opened myself up to this on a one-on-one basis...
Guys, just know I'm reading the comments. I don't want to like respond to every single one. Appreciate it, Far From Heaven. I don't want to respond to like every single one because I'll be pausing this too much and talking, but I am reading the comments, guys.
I was surrounded by a lot of death, and there simply weren't enough hours in the day. So I ask you, if you need support, please reach out to a professional or use my music as your companion.
Ditto.
I share my story in hopes that somebody who needs it finds it, that it provides hope, that it might ease the suffering for the people like me. I like my solitude, so I ask that anyone who respects the work I make and respects my contribution to the world to respect my solitude. A lot happened in my teenage years, and I didn't live the most normal of lives, but I'll save that story for another time. The important thing to contextualize this story is that I was full of life. I was full of a burning desire to change the world. The flaws in how we interact seemed obvious to me. I believed in people's power to change the unnecessary suffering.
You know, I feel like I'm going to be pausing this a lot, but like, I think we can all relate to that when we're kids. We do have a burning desire to kind of change the world. I think it's unfortunate that that kind of fizzles out of us as we get older. I try to hold on to my like inner child as much as I can. Sometimes I get flack for it, but I think it's a good thing, you know. You gotta hold on to that curiousness.
Flaws in how we interact seemed obvious to me. I believed in people's power to change the unnecessary suffering we inflict upon ourselves. I was also enamored with music. Music is the closest thing to God that I have. It's a gateway to the unexplainable, and it's a way of communicating the inexpressible.
Oh, wow. I totally agree with that.
There's just one moment that I want to share with you from the years.
Music's one of those things that's more than the sum of its parts. It's like so much more than just the sum of its parts.
Before I got sick, I was 17 and I felt indestructible. I'm not sure why, but my whole life I had this feeling inside myself that I was meant to do something important, not for myself, not for praise, not for personal gain, but something that would change the world for the better. It's hard to describe it without coming across like an egomaniac or having some sort of God complex, but I felt like I had some sort of divine purpose. And I remember feeling this so strongly that one afternoon after school, I stood in the centre of my bedroom and I spoke loud into an empty void. I said that I would single-handedly take on and defeat the forces of evil, and I welcomed them to try their best. Throughout the years, that memory stuck with me, taunting me sometimes.
I relate so much with that
Flash forward to 2019. I remember the first day I knew something was wrong very well. I woke up in an unfamiliar room in Cardiff, feeling like a raven had perched itself upon my heart. Every time my heart beat, it's like some part of me was aware of the foreboding.
The Raven? Dude, even in his talks, he's connecting with literature. I'm just Edgar Allan Poe, man. The Raven.
Perched itself upon my heart. Every time my heart beat, it's like some part of me was aware of the foreboding death sentence that was to come. Some sort of primal instinctive dread. Everything felt wrong, and I felt prosthetic, like I could tear my own skin off and observe though I was watching passively from another room. The night before, I'd been in Cardiff visiting friends in university. It was the end of summer, we'd gone out to a few bars. I wasn't really enjoying myself. That year I'd been struggling with social anxiety, perhaps from years of abusing my brain with a whole pick and mix and selection of party drugs. Engaging with society felt like stepping into the ring with a heavyweight champion.
There was a time.
Every single fucking question felt like an oncoming haymaker I had to socially navigate because of my very limited toolkit of charisma at the time. I don't know why I cared about being liked so much, but the more I cared, the less equipped I became to have a simple human conversation. I used to deal with this by getting fucking hammered.
That's true, man. It's hard. Once you start to not care, that's when you get more relaxed. Like when you don't care what other people think.
Equipped I became to have a simple human conversation. I used to deal with this by getting fucking hammered. That night was no exception. I got smashed, lost my phone, and woke up in a strange apartment. In the bed opposite mine was a snoring rugby player and his girlfriend. Everything just seemed off, and it wasn't a hangover. My first thought was I'd been spiked. I quietly gathered all my belongings and left before anyone could wake up and punch me with a conversation. I wandered around the grey Cardiff in the haze, feeling like I've just been rigged up to an IV bag full of ketamine and cyanide. And the whole world just seemed off, like I was looking at it through a tunnel. A heavy feeling of fear clung around me like a straitjacket. The only comforting thought was that with enough time, rest and water, it would pass. But it didn't. For 8 long years, it didn't.
Shit! 8.
And this is my story of an 8-year-long nightmare.
God damn!
I returned back to my dad's home. He was living with his partner at the time. It wasn't my home, so I already felt uncomfortable and out of place. These unusual symptoms persisted. I figured I'd caught some sort of virus and I'd get better with time. But by the end of the week, things were a lot worse. I took myself to the doctor and he said he thought it sounded viral, that if I went home and got enough rest, it would eventually pass. And it didn't. For 8 years, it didn't. I returned for my second year of university. My brain was full of...
He says that it's so, like, he almost just glosses over it. It's like 8 years, dude. That is a long time. That's like 1/10 of your life. That's 10% of your life.
Fog, and my body felt poisoned. There were intermittent days where I felt like a hollow suit of skin. I'd sit in lectures unable to focus and was devoid of any sort of personality. I'd be able to have basic conversations, yeses and nos, but I was stripped of the ability to think spontaneously. It's like my body was taking up so much processing power being sick that I could not have original or spontaneous thought. The most peculiar thing about this was there was a me that was aware that this was all happening and was observing it from outside of myself, locked out, screaming silently, banging on the walls of my mind to be let in, and never successfully. And nonetheless, there I was, like a ghost haunting myself. My usual routine was getting home, running a shower and curling up into a ball to cry underneath the running water, not understanding what was going on. I brought myself to the doctors numerous times during this period, requesting every blood test they'd let me have, often being dismissed and told things like stress from university can cause strange symptoms. But how come no one I knew in university could relate to this? Eventually I was put on a 6-month-long waiting list to see a mental health specialist who did a short 1-page questionnaire and wrongly diagnosed me as hypercycling bipolar and put me on a course of citalopram. After a few weeks it stole my ability to sleep. I was told to stick it out and it would level out and eventually I'd feel more like myself. I stuck it out and I got worse. And I pulled myself off it after 2.
Well, yeah, because now he's on these weird psychotropics and he's still got the symptoms. Like, it's like doubling up.
Like myself. I stuck it out, and I got worse, and I pulled myself off it after 2 weeks in a row of sleepless nights and insomnia.
Damn. Oh, SSRI, okay.
There's something pretty peculiar about being told you're in some sort of spectrum of madness, even if you suspect that you're mad. Your diagnosis finds a way to claw itself into your identity, even if it doesn't belong to you. Ever since I was a child, I'd always be asking what and why and how things worked. I couldn't really accept things as they were without knowing how. I carried into my adult years, and so as the bipolar hammer crashed and sentenced itself into my reality, I began searching online for behaviours associated with it, people's first-hand experiences, what it felt like to be manic. In these earlier days of my illness, the symptoms would fluctuate in severity day by day.
You're an RN.
Some
okay,
days I'd be in a thick, tired fog, and other days they'd be more merciful. I began to associate the days of not suffering as mania and would act more erratically on the days that my symptoms were less bothersome. I did things like climbing out of windows of a 6-story student accommodation or get so drunk I'd wake up outside of the university campus lawn. But it wasn't mania. I just wasn't hurting. I spent 1 day a week with my therapist, who was teaching me cognitive behavioural therapy. The issue was, mentally reframing unexplainable symptoms caused a lot of cognitive dissonance for me. I was told my anxiety or depression was causing my symptoms, but in reality it was my symptoms which were making me anxious and depressed. So I was in some sort of inescapable bind. I devotedly work on my mental health, following every new tool for coping to the letter, only to have my symptoms get worse, which made me frustrated.
It sucks because it's hard to, I mean, at this point, it's hard to blame his doctors and stuff because I don't know a lot about, like, Lyme disease. I don't know how they would catch that or, I don't know.
To the letter,
it's just unfortunate,
only to have my symptoms get worse, which made me frustrated, raised the intensity of my treatment, only to get even more frustrated as my body seemed to deteriorate. After 6 months, I told my mum I'd happily saw off my own leg with a blunt knife if it meant my symptoms would vanish, and I meant it. I told her if I had to live with this strange feeling for 1 more year, I'd kill myself, and I meant that too. But something happened that winter which showed me firsthand the horrors and the fallout from suicide. I met Joe when I was 9 years old. I remember the first time clearly. I was standing in his living room when he turned to me and he was like, "Watch this." Then he proceeded to climb on top of his sofa and did a front flip onto a stone living room floor. He landed on his back and lay motionless for a few seconds before grinning, getting up, and then doing it all over again.
Stone?
We grew up terrorizing the streets of the small village we grew up in, playing knock door run or breaking into people's gardens to play on their trampolines. We stayed friends throughout high school, going through various phases together. Joe was comedian of the group. I remember countless mornings after messy all-nighters, Joe would be cracking endless jokes like a professional stand-up routine, and we'd all be in tears laughing. When I started writing my first songs, Joe and Sega were the first people who always knew every word, and they would sing along at the top of their lungs. They gave me a lot of self-belief, and they helped me build the foundation of what I do today, and I owe them a lot for that.
Did he say, how many years, he said this was some years before the symptoms he was just talking about? Did we back up like 6 years or something?
That Christmas, I came back home to Wales from university. On Christmas Eve, me and Joe were sat in a pub and he turned to me and he told me that he'd fantasized about walking into the sea until he was totally submerged. He had a pretty morbid sense of humor, so I didn't really take him as seriously as I should have. 2 days later, it's 3 a.m. and I get a phone call. It's my friend Ella. She tells me that Joe is on the bridge by my house. He was drunk, he'd called her up, and he told her he was going to jump.
Oh.
I was still half asleep. I fumbled, pulling on whatever clothes I could that were near, and I walked out of the front door, and the winter air stung my face, and it woke me up. Adrenaline kicked in, and I started sprinting towards the bridge. It was about a 5-minute walk, a 2.5-minute sprint. As I was running, I dialed Joe's number, and I get a busy tone, and I felt relief because it meant he was still alive. I kept hitting redial as I ran, and as I got about halfway to the bridge, the busy tone changes. I get an automated voice note saying the number's out of service, and my heart sunk. I got to the suspension bridge that connects Anglesey to the mainland, and it usually looks very beautiful. I sprint up and down the bridge yelling Joe's name, and silence.
Damn. Well, he was dealing with tick by age 18, Joe suicide age 20. Oh, okay, so this is... So he's dealing with his shit, and then Joe's... Damn, man.
It's deafening. And I peer over the bridge into the blackness, and the bridge sits about 100 feet above the water, Hitting cold water at that height is like smashing into concrete.
Yeah.
And the waters are notoriously dangerous because of the cross current. I hear nothing, no sounds, nothing. I run up and down the bridge about 2 times before I spot a figure at the end of it, and my heart jumps into my...
Okay, Sea-Dog, we're 11 minutes into the chapter 1. You didn't miss a lot. This video will be up on my channel after we're live. I hope. I'm pretty sure it will be. So if you missed stuff, you can go back and watch.
Throat, and I run towards the figure, and it's my friend Ricky who's had the same call, and we both run around up and down the bridge and around the surrounding area looking for Joe. More of his friends eventually arrive, and there's nothing. I was about a minute too late. We spent the next week walking up and down beaches with flashlights, and when it's that dark, every other large rock starts to look like a washed up body. We plastered all the neighbouring towns in missing posters, contacting whoever we could, someone who might know something. We checked bank records to see if any money had been withdrawn since he went missing. There was CCTV footage of him walking onto the bridge, but there wasn't any of him coming off. But there were dead zones in the footage, so there was still a small chance he could be alive. I was sleeping about 3 hours a night, pretty determined that we'd still find him.
Move this up so you guys can read.
For about 10 days we had nothing, and then suddenly a call comes through while we're all at my friend Miles's house having food. It's the police. A body had been found in the water by the bridge. We piled into my friend's car. I remember being in the back seat in floods of tears, repetitively punching the back of the passenger seat as we drove to the scene.
Okay, thanks, Dottie.
As we pull up, I saw a lifeless body being zipped up into a green bag near a parked ambulance. Its skin was bloated by the seawater, and it wasn't Joe. Someone else decided to jump that day. Joe was never found. It's difficult to truly let go when you can't say goodbye. For months following, I held on to this fantasy.
Damn. That's just like another... That's just salt in the wound there, man. Not only did Joe commit suicide, but they never found his body, man. That's just...
It's difficult to
really
truly
sucks.
let go when you can't say goodbye. For months following, I held on to this fantasy that we'd get a call that he'd run away to some European town, and he was happy and he was healthy.
Yep,
but that call never came.
One of the stages of grief.
The time during his inquest was also around the time I was struggling with the side effects of a new antidepressant. I remember sitting in the courtroom feeling like I was listening to the whole thing deep underwater. The judge felt the circumstances surrounding Joe's death didn't mean The judge felt that the circumstances surrounding Joe's death meant that the verdict was left open. It kind of stung even more to not have an official ruling of suicide. I remember going to visit his mum not long after and witnessing the aftermath of a mother grieving for her baby boy. The silence of his father, the tears of his mother. I decided that day that I'd have to wait until my illness killed me because I couldn't do it by choice. I couldn't put my family through that. Over the next 10 years, I returned to my hometown, only a handful of times following Joe's death. My last visit was in the summer of last year. I reconnected with Joe's parents and showed them a song that I'd written, simply entitled For Joe. We cried together, reminisced together, joked, and I'm proud to say that I gave Joe's mum enough money to afford a caravan she told me she'd been saving up for. That felt pretty good. We'd also do a fundraiser for the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, who were integral for searching for Joe during that time, and we raised a pretty good amount of money too. Being able to give back in whatever small way I could felt good, and it felt right for all the years Joe had made us all laugh till it hurt. He was a solid person, just a little lost, as we all are sometimes. And I miss him. Life was about to take an even more unusual turn, and I was about to meet the first angel of this story. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, for Joe, this was... Do we just react to this now? I mean... Because someone said I should listen to, like, Freckled Angels, Suicide, and For Joe. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna watch all these. Maybe I'll react to them again or something, or this will be my reaction. That's fine. Okay. The jury has spoken. The jury's reached a verdict. We are doing it now. Yeah, those are sounds that I don't care what language you speak, you know the kind of grief and sorrow that those tones produce. I mean, that's just universal language right there.
It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. You know the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch. I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away
Fibonacci sequence and double Dutch. You're always adding the last two letters in the Fibonacci sequence, I think. Doubling it up. Man, the whole ocean's full of tears, empty cups. Stomach's hurting.
I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside the trunk, inside the pickup truck, then dumped that whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped. I think about that sometimes, vividly. What it felt like to look down and see tranquility. One sudden movement in a world of possibility. Only one movement to expose our fragility. I fucking miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking we were indestructible as hell. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Justin, Sega, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. Distance is my plaster cast to tell the truth. The day you jumped, my childhood jumped too. But I still can't find the anger. All I find is missing you, man, I miss you. With all my rhymes, I picture running 5 minutes quicker, I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying. And holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine, not the way that it worked. I was late like a jerk, there's not a day where I can find a way to break from the hurt. Your body missing, so we never got to wave to the hearse. I hope you're listening, I love you, man, I miss you, absurd, fuck.
Emotion in his voice on top of the lyrics, like he, man.
Another domino, it falls. Across the way another's born. How you're supposed to raise a child and give it courage from a storm. In a world that is confusing, contradictions pave our flaws. Some will say we're only human, others judge us for our flaws. Some get born in sheets of satin, some get by in tattered clothes. Some will die before they live, that's just how the story goes. But for those of us still with us, who reside inside our hearts, tell them proudly how you feel. And for those of us who aren't, freckled angels stand strong, freckled angels live on, freckled angels climb higher, freckled angels still inspire, freckled angels won't forget you, teach me to live my life better. 13 years and still I miss you, now my wings are missing feather. Otherwise I'd come and join you, but for now I'm here on earth, stuck inside this mortal body. But for everything it's worth, made me braver, made me wiser, made me stronger, made me true, made me face the world with courage, and that's all because of you.
You know, Ren is so good at explaining the emotion, but pulling something positive out of it. Like, he is always showing us hope and resilience, and I really love that about Ren. Like, it's very inspirational and admirable. Oh, okay. Double Dutch, okay.
Freckled angels laugh the hardest, and their hearts, they are the largest. With their wings, they fly the farthest. So I know you're gonna be okay. Freckled angels live the longest, and their minds, they are the strongest. Oh, their friends, they are the fondest. So I know you're gonna be okay.
Okay. All right. That was beautiful. That was touching. Heads up. Wait, hold on. More. Hold on, guys. I got oh, you guys can see that. Yeah, I got a content ID claim or something. Kind of image matching. YouTube automatically generates claims against other users. Movie studio might not want to claim videos from a channel that. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know why I got this warning. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to say after that one. I'm sure we all have been personally touched or know someone at least who has been touched by mental health issues and suicide. And guys, reach out for help if you are struggling at all, you know what I mean? Like, there's no shame in that. And just know that you're not alone, you know?
A year of living in a nightmarish purgatory does strange things to your psyche. I was still trying to push through university, but I found myself missing many lectures to stay in bed. I started noticing more unusual symptoms creeping in, a strange buzzing sensation in the soles of my feet. My vision started looking like fuzzy television static, something that I later learned was called visual snow, something with no known origin. My calf muscles started constantly twitching and spasming. At any moment they wouldn't go longer than 20 seconds without twitching, and that can drive you a bit nuts. All these symptoms I still live with to this day.
Man, that just made me think of the start of his Hunger music video when he's like twitching.
And that can drive you a bit nuts. All these symptoms I still live with to this day. You just become very used to tolerating constant discomfort. It becomes kind of the norm and kind of becomes like an annoying, unsettling radio static in the background of existence. I stopped taking my antidepressants after having cycled many different kinds. None of them helped. All of them gave me some new kind of symptom or side effect.
YouTube gremlins will copyright Ren occasionally. Oh, okay. That's a scammer.
Like insomnia, dry mouth, heart palpitations, no libido, etc. I spent a lot of my time alone, but in the moments of respite I'd hang out with friends. We formed a band called Trick the Fox the year before I'd gotten sick. It was the one ray of sunshine I had at the time. I quickly became friends with a bass player called Charlie, and we developed some kind of musical telepathy where we both knew what the other was going to play before it even happened. It was the first musician I've ever felt this kind of chemistry with. I became a kind of third wheel in his Momoko's relationship. With time, Momoko became like a sister to me. To this day, it's one of my favourite people on this spinning rock. Performing with Trick the Fox was one of the rare times that I felt free. There was something about the duty of having to entertain others that let me escape the physical limitations of my own sick body, even if just for a moment. I usually pay for it the next day with what can only be described as an energy hangover where I'd be stuck in bed all day, but for me that was worth it. Those days I was still fairly functional. It was around this time I started losing faith in the medical industry. The more appointments I'd go to, adamant that something was wrong, the more of a hypochondriac they treat me as. Medical gaslighting is a real thing with chronic illness. They chalk me down as someone who was always requesting blood tests, and my mental health diagnosis probably didn't help that. Strangely, they never tested me for any kind of pathogens.
Huh.
I decided to embark on a precarious journey into the Russian roulette chamber of Dr. Google. I would type in the most predominant symptom of the day, and Dr. Google would tell me that I have a rare disease and I'm probably going to die. With time, I sharpened my search engine axe and refined what I was looking for. I dived headfirst into the abyss of online support groups, hoping to find solace or answers amongst fellow sufferers. We were like crabs in a barrel. Very rarely someone would find their silver bullet and announce what it was that cured them. Hundreds of people would follow their protocol, some with mild success, but most of us would still remain trapped. I joined as many online support groups as I could. It was a bit like the beginning of Fight Club, except instead of faking conditions to feel accepted, I was desperately hoping I had those conditions so I could cure myself and get the fuck out. I convinced myself I had conditions like candida, magnesium deficiency, parasites, adrenal fatigue, heavy metal poisoning, etc. At the time, I felt like I was single-handedly keeping Jeff Bezos in business. While most students were spending their student loan on drinks, I'd spend mine on the supplement or protocol of the week. I'd follow whatever herbal or supplement protocol was suggested, sometimes noticing mild improvement and sometimes getting a lot worse, most of the time feeling nothing. A story would pop up on one of these groups like, after I did a 30-day parasite cleanse of wormwood, cloves and garlic, all my symptoms disappeared. I'd read a story like this, get full of hope and put myself through a grueling 30 days, which would often result in a worsening of symptoms. My body felt even sicker and weaker, but I'd stick it out because I was told that this was a good sign. The parasites are dying. I peered into the toilet bowl and valiantly waved goodbye as I flushed their imaginary corpses into a watery abyss. At the end of the 30 days, I'd be left with a lighter wallet and all my symptoms still remaining. And if that didn't work, I'd move on to what was next. Maybe I have seasonal affective disorder. Alright, so I'd get on the internet, order a light, stare at it for 10 minutes a day, and to my big fucking surprise, still have all my symptoms. The only thing that light illuminated for me was that I was desperate enough to buy a glorified table lamp. I kid you not when I say that over the years I probably have taken nearly every dietary health supplement known to man. One of the most grueling self-treatment courses came when I did a round-the-clock heavy metal chelation. I would take a supplement called ALA and DMSA, which supposedly shuttled mercury molecules out of your body through a process called chelation.
Ready? I'm heavy. I'm Mercury. Yeah, I'm Freddy.
Which supposedly shuttled mercury molecules out of your body through a process called chelation. I would have to take the pill once every 3 hours around the clock, which meant setting multiple alarm clocks to wake up and take them. The supplements came with their own side effects. I remember one time standing in a supermarket and feeling like the sounds and lights were so bright that I couldn't even bear to be in there.
Thank you, bro.
I stuck with this protocol for a whole year with no luck.
Sorry, Dottie.
I was still coming to terms with the death of one of my best friends during this time too. I was too sick to hold down any kind of stable job, so I was mostly living off my student loan. Welsh students study in England also weirdly get given a small sum of money just for being Welsh, or almost like a "we're really sorry that you're Welsh" sort of condolence prize. I've always prided myself on my financial independence, so whenever I could, I'd get out on the streets of Bath and I'd busk. I remember the very first time I did. I had my guitar in hand, I perched myself on a bench, took a deep breath, and then bared my soul to the jury of the street, and it was exhilarating. People sometimes ask me what music means to me, and it means life. This was usually the one time I felt like I didn't want to die. This was the one time I could feel a resemblance of something that resembled spirit, that resembled my soul, that resembled me. Wow. I even found myself cracking jokes with onlookers, which for someone dripping with social anxiety at the time was huge for me. It was March, roughly 3 months after Joe had died, and I was sitting on a bench in Bath with my guitar singing into a busy street. And this is when I would meet the first angel of this story. I'd see 2 more angels years later, one in the guise of a homeless man, one a doctor cheating death in the Beverly Hills clinic, but that bit will come a little bit later.
Little foreshadowing.
The angel was walking on the opposite side of the street with a mother. They both stopped to watch me for a moment. I saw her mum whisper something to her. The angel turned bright red and she giggled and they shyly approached. We got talking and the angel asked where I was from. I told her that I grew up in Wales in a small village that was once described in a local newspaper as being worse than an Iraqi war scene. I told them they would have never heard of it. They looked surprised and they said they had family there. I asked which part, and it turned out to be the village that I grew up in. Since you can basically count a population of 2 intergenerationally bred mutated hands, I asked who they were, and it turned out that angel happened to be Joe's cousin. This encounter was always a foundational moment of serendipity in my life.
Wow.
In the years that followed, I took serendipitous occasions to mean I was in line with my purpose.
Dude, Ren is funny. He's like even poetic with his speeches. Like, When he said he bought a lamp, he's like, the only thing that illuminated in my life was that I wasted time on a fucking lamp or something. Like, he's very thoughtful and careful with his words.
In my life. In the years that followed, I took serendipitous occasions to mean I was in line with my purpose. Sometimes I felt like I'm following a script. It's just that I don't know the words or actions until they actually happen. But in moments of serendipity, I feel like they are playing out exactly as they were meant to. It was quite a bizarre moment for me, that hundreds of miles away by chance this angel would be related to my lost friend. Upon learning who I was, they invited me back to theirs for a cup of tea, and I accepted and I fell in love. It was really good tea. That week, the angel took me to a favourite botanical garden, and she pointed out a favourite flower. So that night, true story, I dressed in black, broke in by climbing over the fence, dug up the flower and presented it to her the next day. She called me insane, but it's safe to say that
he's in your hood and he's robbing, man.
Angel ended up being my first serious girlfriend. It was a weird kind of relationship. We both shared an unusual trauma for people who were so young, brought together by a tragedy. Even though sometimes I feel like she might have hated me at the time, I was convinced like it was some sort of Shakespearean fate that had brought us together. A morbidity that birthed light, that it couldn't be anything else. It felt like divine intervention. She was pretty troubled in her own way, and I was very troubled in mine. But in between the sludge of dealing with the constant symptoms,
Thanks,
it was
Jennifer.
beautiful.
I appreciate
That summer, her parents took us to Centre Parks, which is a posher version of Butlins, if you don't know, where they paid for all the activities and meals, and they let me do whatever I wanted. Coming from a poorer family, I wasn't really used to being spoiled to that degree, but I figured I'd just roll with it. One morning while I was there, I got a call from my friend Sega, and he sounded pretty mixed up, so I asked him what was wrong. He told me that there was no easy way to say it, but one of my other best friends, Callum, had died. He'd gone cliff jumping in the same cliffs we used to jump off as kids. The sea was particularly choppy that day, and he caught a cross current and he started to drown. Another guy that he was with had jumped in an attempt to save him, and they both drowned.
What?
The first day I met Callum, I was 11, save him,
That's
and
so
caught a cross
tragic.
current and he started to drown. Another guy that he was with had jumped in an attempt to save him, and they both drowned. The first day I met Callum, I was 11. He was in the year above me in high school and used to walk around with these massive baggy bright orange jeans. He hung around with all the goth kids and I thought they looked super cool. So the next day I painted my nails black and fashioned a necklace out of a severed extension cable from an old VCR machine. I infiltrated the group and I gained their trust. Not long after, me and Callum were friends, wandering around beautiful Welsh countryside looking for the most scenic places to smoke weed. We stayed friends throughout high school and I truly loved him. When Callum died, I couldn't properly grieve. I felt weirdly numb after losing Joe. I'd often feel guilty for my inability to cry at the time. A couple of years later, I'd learned another friend of mine that I used to play function gigs with had thrown himself off a cliff face in Dover. And again, I felt numb. I couldn't tell if this new acceptance of the inevitability of death was a beautifully liberating thing, or if it was a sign that my humanity was slipping away. To this day, death has kind of remained a bit of a matter-of-fact part of my life. During my years of sickness, I had to crawl through a morbid longing to be killed by my illness to find a more peaceful acceptance that death is just an inevitable consequence of life, and it doesn't spare anyone. That never left, and I haven't ever really been scared of dying since.
Yeah. Death is inevitable. I mean, it's like the beautiful tragedy. But you can't have life without death. Like, life wouldn't be as amazing and good as it is if there wasn't death. If there was just eternity, you would eventually like go nuts. You would have done everything you could have possibly done, literally, and then you would only have to get to do it again over and over until you're literally just doing the same. Like, you guys know what I'm saying? Death is what makes life so precious.
And it doesn't spare anyone. That never left, and I haven't ever really been scared of dying since. Some days I've tempted it. What I'm more scared of is having to live my whole life as a sick person. In my relationship with death, the most healing moment occurred just 2 years ago. My grandmother, who I loved to pieces, was dying, but I actually got the chance to say goodbye this time, to hold her hand, to thank her for being alive. I remember not long before she passed, she was lying in the hospital bed, and she was very weak and very pale, barely able to open her eyes. I asked how she was, and it seemed like a stupid question as soon as it left my mouth. She paused for a long moment, and she turned her head to look at me, and she opened her eyes and she smiled, and she said she felt happy. And it was just one word, happy, which was simple and it was beautifully profound. And that was one time I'd gotten a chance to say goodbye. And it was the first time that I hoped that one day I would die happy. The following year, I would achieve something beyond my wildest dreams, and then I would lose it almost as soon as it came. Stay tuned for that.
I don't wanna hear no words today, because they pull me under. In the castle of my room I'll hide away from the outside thunder. Gonna lock my troubles outside of this door, 'cause today it's just me and these four walls.
The great equalizer.
I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Say oh, said I wanna run away.
Guys, do you know how old is he here? He looks very young. He looks like he's maybe 18. $19 or $20? Okay.
Another place, fly to another place. Say oh.
Even at this age, man, his lyrics have so much depth. So wants to lock himself in his room, keep the troubles of the world away. Man, what a beautiful
fly to
soul.
another place, fly to another place. Say oh. Said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. The light that I hold, it turns to gray, and that makes me wonder, will I always feel this way? So far under, but I put my soul on show for everyone to see, 'cause even though it's bruised, I know it holds such beauty. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Say oh.
I love that this is like a punk rock vibe. You never hear these kind of lyrics. Like, these should not go together. But they do. Like, this sounds like Sum 41, kind of.
I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Nobody here but me today, but that makes me stronger.
And you know, I was having this thought, like, when we were talking about life and death, like, without death, I feel like when people do, like, the wrong things in life, it's most of the time they're thinking they're immortal. Like, a lot of the times we're not. We're always thinking there's more time. We're always thinking we're not going to die. But, like, I really think that keeping that in mind and, like, maybe even coming to terms with the fact that you're going to die, that helps you be a more empathetic person. And, like, it helps you see through all the bullshit. And it's done that with Ren, like, and his music is amazing because of that. Like,
me today, but that makes me stronger, 'cause I wash away the pain under sheets of feather. Gonna lock my troubles outside of this door, 'cause today it's just me and these four walls. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. I crave run.
Sheila, I've had the same thought, and I don't think so. I don't think that without all of the pain and introspection that his sickness forced him to do, it wouldn't have been the same. At least it would not have been the same. I really think that some of the best art, not even music, but music included, comes from really deep pain and sorrow and like tragic life experience.
In solitude,
Yeah.
I search
Yeah.
for peace, but pain pursues. Please, something, just free me, give me some truth. My head is a prison, I need to move. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, hey oh. I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, hey oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, hey oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place.
Yeah, he was gifted from a young age. You know, he did say he had
My
this
therapist
feeling. But who's to say, man? Who's to say? I mean, he would have had tragedy in his life had he without the tick bite. Who's to say, man? Speculation doesn't really help
was
us.
scowling at my weekly anxiety and depression scores like a detective trying to crack a particularly scowling. My
That happened
therapist
fast.
was scowling at my weekly anxiety and depression scores like a detective trying to.
Wait, what? Sorry, guys. I'm getting, like, info about my stream. What is this saying? I said I want to run away, fly to another place. Your stream has been temporarily blocked? Why? Contact ID doesn't claim. Oh, is it? Are you guys here still? Let's make me open Gmail again. Are we back?
Crack a.
Are we back? Okay. Alright, yeah, I guess I might have to be... Sorry, guys. I might have to be pausing the songs, like, pretty frequently, because it looks like I'm getting, like, copyright flagged or something. Which I... That's weird. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really do anything. It just came back, so I guess we'll just keep going. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make sure I pause it a lot in the songs, I guess. Like, usually there are copyright things, but then when I like say no it's not, it like goes away right away, but I don't know why it's not happening here. Maybe if I hold on, guys. Hold, please. Said I wanna run away, fly to another place. Say, oh, maybe I can do something here. Huh. I don't know. Was that Trick the Five? Is that what that song was? Can you start this one over? Start part 3 over?
My therapist was scowling at my weekly
I know, I do have the song stuck in my head.
anxiety and depression scores like a detective.
All right,
My therapist was
Here we go,
scowling
we're
at
back.
my weekly anxiety and depression scores like a detective trying to crack a particularly stubborn case. There were no signs of improvement, and the scores followed no real measurable pattern that were
Oh, like a detective? That makes me inside the mind of Sherlock Holmes, inside the mind of the illest of our time, Hardy brothers, trying to figure it out.
consistent with bipolar. After nearly 2 years of talk therapy and taking enough medications to fill a pharmacy, he sat down with me and he dropped the bombshell that he didn't think that I had bipolar. In fact, he said that he didn't think that I had depression at all. And it was a very odd thing to be stripped of an identity in an instant. The reality was that a 20-minute in and out consultation 2 years ago led to 2 years of swallowing pills that I never needed and devoting so much of my time to managing the condition that I never actually had. The emotions inside me swirled around like a mismatched soup. On one hand, I was full of anger and I was bitter about the whole situation, but I was also hopeful that this new path could offer me the relief that I desperately needed. He told me he was going to refer me to an ME clinic in Bath. I'd never heard of it before, but instinctively true to character, I started researching it online as soon as I got home. Apparently, ME is the medical equivalent of a choose-your-own-adventure book, with tiredness as the only consistent plotline.
Remember.
There were no universally
Let me go
accepted
back,
reasons
sorry.
as to why the fuck it existed in the
Let me go
first
back.
place. Apparently,
10
ME
seconds.
is the medical equivalent of a choose-your-own-adventure book, with tiredness as the only consistent plotline. There were no universally accepted reasons as to why the fuck it existed in the first place. It seemed it was largely accepted to be a post-viral condition, but that was all speculative because there were no clear consensus in the medical community what ME even was. The defining characteristic was a tiredness that wouldn't go away with rest.
Wait, what's ME? What did he say?
Desperately needed. He told me he was going to refer me to an ME clinic in Bath. I'd never heard of it before, but instinctively true to character, I started researching it online as soon as I got home. Apparently, ME is the medical equivalent of a choose-your-own-adventure book.
What did he say what ME is? What is ME?
Condition that I never actually had. The emotions inside me swirled around like a mismatched soup.
Thank you.
There were no universally accepted reasons as to why the fuck it existed in the first place. It seemed it was largely accepted to be a post-viral condition, but that was all speculative because there were no clear consensus in the medical community what ME even was. The defining characteristic was a tiredness that wouldn't go away with rest. I could relate to this. In fact, I could more than relate to it. For anyone lucky enough to have not have experienced this,
Thanks, Dottie.
if you
Yeah,
want an
thanks,
idea
guys.
of what it's like, force yourself to stay awake for 3 nights in a row. During this time, eat the food that makes you feel terrible, and in this sleep-deprived state, exercise until your muscles give out. By the 3rd day,
Damn.
you'll have a small insight into living with this condition. During the years post-stem cell transplant, where I recovered a lot of my health and functionality, I remember getting COVID and thinking it was a walk in the park compared to the first year of my illness. The difference was COVID lasted about a week. The thick of my illness lasted 8 years, and it only was getting worse. I pinned a lot of hope on going to that first visit at the ME clinic. It was a 6-month waiting list, God bless NHS wait times, but I felt excited to be surrounded by people who would understand me, where I could climb out of this nightmare. But my hopes were pretty quickly crushed during that first visit.
Damn.
I remember walking into a space that looked like a disused classroom where a bunch of people on chairs were sitting around in circles like Alcoholics Anonymous. I could feel a sense of camaraderie and that we all felt like dog shit. We were all confused and we were all desperately wanting to feel better. I believe at the time I was probably the youngest in the group. The group leader waddled in and handed us all a booklet that looked like a school timetable. She then sat us down and told about this new revolutionary technique called pacing, where you write down and track everything that you do in a day, and then you do it less. And then with time, do it more again. The theory being that you have a limited bucket of energy compared to normal people, and you need to protect that and gradually push it. I thought this sounded pretty stupid, so I raised my hand. I told her about the pain in my body. I told her that my muscles twitched constantly. I told her that my bones ached. I told her that my mouth was dry. I couldn't focus. That some days they'd be without mercy and I'd be trapped in bed for the whole day. But the days that I wasn't, I wanted to make the most of it. I wanted to breathe the air and I wanted to live. She told me she understood it's hard, but she didn't really offer more than that. She just pointed at the booklet and told me to follow it. I asked her about things like heavy metal poisoning, about chronically reactivating viruses, about defective mitochondria, about all the things that I read that were linked to chronic fatigue, but she just raised an eyebrow, looked at me like I was a hypochondriac and told me she knew nothing about those things. I remember walking out of the building feeling disheartened and defeated,
Poor Ren,
so
man.
much
He's
so
just
that my
trying to
legs
figure out what's
buckled as I
going
was
on.
walking home. I began to sob uncontrollably on the side of the road. An old woman knelt down to comfort me and asked me what was wrong. I didn't even really know how to explain, so I just told her that I missed my friend. Despite my skepticism, I stuck to the program for at least half a year, and I kept going for my periodic visits to the clinic, and it did jack shit. In fact, I got worse. I was always getting worse. One thing that particularly struck me about the ME support groups was the pure desperation and confusion. With most other conditions, you're given a diagnosis, a prognosis of whether it's going to kill you, and what you can do to manage it or cure it. With ME, you don't get that. You get an indeterminately long sentence to purgatory. You feel worse than you've ever felt in your whole life, and you're given no explanation as to why, and no signpost pointing the way out. There was no selection bias to the people suffering. Members of the group were anything from esteemed ex-lawyers to single parents to former athletes. One thing I can say, these people were for the most part all extremely driven and collectively mourning their old lives. There's a stigma that because ME's predominant presentation of symptoms is tiredness, that its victims are just being lazy. I can tell you firsthand that me and every single person I've met with genuine ME would rather run 1,000 marathons than have to live another week with the tiredness and the unrelenting fatigue. We were at war with our tiredness, trying desperately to escape it, and some of us would go to extreme lengths to turn ourselves into guinea pigs to try and find ways out. Suicide was pretty common in those online support groups. It was around this time I was swallowed into the music industry. I was out busking on the streets one day and I noticed this sketchy, good-looking Mauritian guy with his arms crossed watching me, really intensely, as though he was studying every lyric coming out of my mouth. He approached me and asked me if the songs I was singing were mine. I said they were. A big smile was painted across his face, and he told me he just finished recording Plan B's latest record, which turned out to be The Defamation of Strickland Banks, one of my favourite albums of all time. He was looking for a new project to sink his teeth into, and he asked me if I'd come to
Yeah, I've never even heard of Plan B. I only know Plan B like skateboards.
London to record. We got into it. The whole time I felt dreadful, but this was a lifelong dream materialising in front of my eyes, so bit by bit, when I could, I'd get the train to London and start chipping away at my first ever album. I didn't really let on how I was feeling during this time because I didn't want to sabotage it. There would be times I'd finish up in the vocal booth after doing the take, excuse myself to go to the toilet, throw up from the dizziness I was experiencing, sometimes with specks of blood, and then I'd go back and pretend that nothing had happened. I'd be sitting around with the whole room spinning and would pretend I was fine. There was only so long that I was able to keep this up.
Damn.
Eric told me it'd be a cool idea for me to start going to industry showcases and start building buzz. Performing live like this was a whole new level of taxing that I wasn't ready for, but I was so ferociously ambitious that I just ploughed through. The usual way it would go is I'd be in the back of Charlie's car, the whole world would be spinning, I'd be trying my best to sleep in it all day, parked up outside of whatever venue or pub it was in London, trying to conserve energy for the show. Sometimes I'd cry a little before I performed. My whole body would be burning. Then I'd brush it off and I'd get on stage and I'd perform as best I could. People would come up to me at the end, pat me on the back. I'd smile and pretend to be charismatic. Then I'd get back in the car and I wish I was in bed and have to endure a 3-hour drive back to Bath from London. There was only a few shows where I could keep pretending. I'd usually be trying to disguise the fact that my body was trembling through the fatigue and pain. Eventually I started crying mid-set. It became blindingly obvious to everyone working with me during that time that something was very wrong. I told Eric that I needed to take some time out. My plan was to live at home with my mum for a month maximum, get my energy back, and come and finish the record. That 1 month turned into 2 months, turned into 3 months, turned into 6 months. I'd pushed myself to total burnout. The distance led to me and that angel breaking up, in part because it was difficult to navigate a relationship when you have so much brain fog, and I didn't know what it was well enough to be able to explain it to her at the time. With a loud thud, I'd been jolted out of a Shakespearean storyline, I lost the record deal, and I couldn't get out of bed. My friends from Trick the Fox never really called to check up on me. It felt like the whole world was moving at lightning speed without me. I had this amazing opportunity right in front of me, and I was chained to the floor. I was alone, I was sick. I wished that my condition would get it over with and kill me, but it wouldn't, and it felt cruel that it wouldn't. It just let me rot in bed. The whole world would continue to turn, and I would rot. In the next episode, I'm going to tell you about a fight with a television and losing my anal virginity to an 80-year-old man. Stay tuned for that.
No. What? Where the did that come from, Ren? What? Oh, he probably had like a doctor that gave him like a prostate exam or something, right?
My thought patterns are composed by a time bomb for an author, like pigs to the slaughter. A symphony of self-doubt sings out, breath starts getting shorter.
Is this gonna get my live band again, or what song is this?
To the slaughter. A symphony of self-doubt sings out, breath starts getting shorter. Running water is the state that I wish to become. Instead, concrete envelops my...
Running water is a state that I wish to become. Flow like water? Who said that? Bruce Lee? You gotta move like water.
Movement is the state that I wish to become. Instead, concrete envelops my movement and I'm rendered deaf and dumb, unable to heed the advice of others. Don't tell me things will get better, cause so far things haven't gotten better. I've got the sweater, poster child, bipolar, ADHD therapist, wet dream. I don't want to talk about my father, I don't want to talk about my dead friend, I don't want to talk about myself. I'm sick of talking about myself. I'm sick of talking about myself and realizing that talking about myself never ever helps. Still, I call for help, cause I really want help. But the pills didn't seem to help, and the therapist didn't seem to help. But still, I want help. I've done.
Yeah, he is laying it bare on this song. He is pleading.
And the therapist didn't seem to help, but still, I want help. I've danced with the devil in hell. I've sat in a prisonless cell, and here I always dwell, in this prison in myself. I do this thing where my mind travels back to the golden age. You know those times where you were carefree and everything was golden?
Yep.
Golden age. You know those times where everything was golden, where you were carefree and everything was golden? The hardest thing I ever had to do was come to terms with the fact that that time never really existed. I've always felt so fucking detached.
Oh, man.
Never really existed. I've always felt so fucking detached and broken.
Pause. Okay, I'm pausing. Wait, I just paused. The golden age. Did he lose the Midas touch? I mean, it sounded like that. I don't know if he truly believes it. It sounded like he did have a time in life where things were pretty good, kicking it with his friends and stuff.
Existed.
Thanks, Kitty.
I've always felt so fucking detached and broken, bruised and mismatched. Find it hard to relax, living under the cracks. Tried to fill in the gaps, lying here on my back. Still, I can't find it. Sense of peace in my mind declined it. Pulse increase and my sweat combines with a feeling so deep I fall inside it. Depression, I hate you, depression. Your constant oppression, respond with aggression. They say depression brings you lessons. Constant stressing conceals blessings. You will grow in broken settings. Fuck those lessons, fuck depression. I've been living.
Oh, his parents split up when he was a teenager? Yeah, that's tough. Right? You're right, Jennifer.
You will grow in broken settings. Fuck those lessons, fuck depression. I've been living in your shadow for so long that I forgot how I can shine. How I can find a refuge in my mind. How am I meant to sit here and unwind? The planets align. I feel like I'm cursed. Feel like I'm cursed to just be here to hurt. Feel like I'm cursed to just be here to bleed. But my demons been feeling this way since birth. Depression, I hate you. 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 Depression.
Fuck. No.
My therapist.
Man. Didn't we just watch this? The ending of that song was tragic, man. It's hard hearing his raw emotions come out like that. God, you feel so bad for him. What? You want to say hi? Come here. This is Yoshi. Say hi. He's shy. He doesn't really like to be held. It is gut-wrenching. Damn.
Cool. My therapist was scowling at my weekly. Cool.
It sucks too because, like, I don't know, like, for some people depression is like chemical imbalance or like, you know, a life experience, but like I feel like the majority at least of his depression is coming from the fact that he doesn't know what's wrong with him. Like he's just, and nobody like takes him seriously. They're all just trying to like be like, yeah, it's this, like go ahead. Like nobody really cares to like actually take him seriously and try to figure it out. And then you feel like you're crazy because like people are telling you you're crazy and it's just a fucking tragic scenario, man.
Cool. During the year I spent living back with my mum, I was leaning even more heavily into scouring the internet for answers. It became like an obsession. Most people my age were watching porn. I was on PubMed learning about mitochondria. I educated myself in things like methylation, the building blocks of mitochondria, various immune cells and their functionality, and which supplements could help theoretically bring about homeostasis in my...
Guys, just so you guys get a little hi Yoshi, he said hi. Just so you guys get a little background on me. I have a bachelor's of science in biochemistry and molecular biology. So I am like pretty well versed in cell function, mitochondria, organic chemistry, you know, biological chemistry, DNA, proteins, just cell functions at the chemical level, you know what I mean? So I feel a little bit of a connection. I feel a connection to this.
My body. I taught myself of the various pathogens that could lead to the symptoms I was experiencing. Around this time, I started ordering medical test kits from private medical facilities. I had a eureka moment when, after posting some poop in a tube to a lab in London, I discovered I had an amoeba and another more benign gastrointestinal parasite called Blastohominis. Both could plausibly lead to systemic pain and fatigue. Upon researching the best course of action, I found this doctor in New York who was...
Dude, he's ordering tests online. I have one in science as well. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, cool. He's being his own doctor. Like, he couldn't get doctors to do this. He's literally ordering tests online and sending them
to systemic pain and fatigue. Upon researching the best course of action, I found this doctor in New York who was a world-renowned specialist in treating parasites. Return flights to New York, booked far enough in advance, were a couple of £100 back then. The treatment itself was pretty cheap. I was in no way in a strong financial position, and neither was my family, so I did what I always do when I needed to get money. I wrote and recorded some songs from my laptop from bed. One about getting to New York to find a cure. I sold a modest amount of digital copies to my Facebook friends and my friends and family, just enough to afford a trip. During this time, my symptoms had gotten a lot worse, so the entire visit was a bit of a blur. I remember sitting in a waiting room and struggling to find an inch of wall space that wasn't taken up by the countless medical qualifications and the diplomas attached to it. I half expected the walls to start bragging about their Ivy League connections and debating the latest medical research while us mere mortals waited to be called in. When I was finally on the doctor's table, I was told to take off my clothes and put on a blue disposable paper robe. An old man in his 80s hobbled in, pulled on a medical glove, and proceeded to cover his finger in Vaseline. My heart sunk. I was pretty sure I knew what was coming next. I suddenly wished I'd experimented more with my ex-girlfriend. I didn't want to lose my backdoor virginity like this.
Oh, come on.
He could have at least done me the courtesy of putting on some Marvin Gaye and lighting some candles. But instead I lay in uncomfortable silence on a brightly exposed operating table, while a firm-handed, overqualified old man inserted his index finger forcefully into my anus.
Forcefully? Damn, can't you be a little gentle, guy? Am I gonna get copyright strikes for this Marvin Gaye lovemaking music? Oh, man. Oh.
He never wrote to me afterwards. I felt used. Nonetheless, I was officially diagnosed with a parasitic amoeba and given a course of heavy-duty antibiotics to take.
Why did they have to prostate check him? I'm a little confused by that. Like, did Ren get like Larry Nassered a little bit? I'm a little confused there. The emotional whiplash. I know. It's like, what the... Now all of a sudden I'm laughing. Like, oh my God.
I believe it was paramomycin and secnidazole. After the course was finished, I pooped into a tube again, and they confirmed I got rid of the parasites. The constant internal techno raves and gurgling which usually plagued my stomach ceased, but I felt just as crap. And on top of all of that, I started becoming allergic to everything. And I mean fucking everything. The antibiotics had triggered some sort of massive food intolerance reaction. Whenever I'd eat certain foods, I'd get hit with a sudden hangover-like feeling, and my face would swell up.
Damn.
I'd later learned this was something called MCAS, and it was triggered by the antibiotics. This was the first time I felt the crushing defeat of pinning a lot of money, hopes, and time into a treatment only for it to make me worse. I'd felt it to a small degree with every failed herbal protocol, every antidepressant that gave me side effects, but this was on a much larger scale. I almost felt guilty and full of shame for not getting better. I told my friends and family that this was going to be the thing that cured me. Not only did it fail, but I was now unable to tolerate basic carbohydrates, fruits, sugar, high histamine food, dairy, grains, without feeling terrible. I felt pretty crushed about that.
Isn't that like everything? That sounded like he listed the entire food pyramid there. What is he gonna eat?
Despite this, some tenacious part of me had a perseverance that didn't want to stop looking for answers. I was obsessed with trawling the internet. I strongly believe if I didn't have that tenacity to keep looking after every defeat, I'd probably be dead today.
You guys are funny.
After about a year of living with my mum in North Wales, I got the itch, and I decided that I'd make a bold move to Brighton. Most days I didn't really have the energy to do much other than short walks, but I had a friend over there who lived with Emmy for years.
Okay,
it felt like a safe space. Okay. A place of understanding. Being a 23-year-old living with his mother didn't feel very cool either. He had a free room going, and he was a legend. I desperately craved my own independence. After going through the heartbreak of losing love and losing the exciting career opportunity, I needed to feel like I wasn't just...
Oh yeah, he never said what happened with his girlfriend. Joe's cousin. Did he say? Did I miss it? Or do you guys know what happened? I guess they just had a falling. They just split up. Yeah.
Sitting in the tomb in Wales waiting for death, even if it was a struggle.
He still can only eat 5 or 8 things. Oh my gosh.
I made the move. It was a really nurturing space, and it was full of the lunatics of Brighton who would come and go. I was still living in a thick haze, but I was meeting people who weren't judging me for it. With this safety, I was slowly finding my personality again. Despite the comfortable environment, it seemed my symptoms were only getting worse. I started having pretty constant panic attacks. The first one felt like a heart attack. I'd never experienced a panic attack before, so I wasn't familiar with the symptoms. My whole face went numb, and my heart felt like it was about to beat out of my ribcage. I panicked and I phoned an ambulance. They put me in the back, they took all my vitals, and they told me I wasn't dying. I felt disappointed. These attacks would happen pretty habitually every week or so. My symptoms of derealization seemed ever increasing. Derealization is hard to describe to someone who's never experienced it. The closest thing I can come to is feeling like you're on bad drugs. You feel disconnected from yourself, like your soul has been vacuumed out of your body, and nothing around you quite feels real. Everything has an unusual undertone and nothing feels safe. I remember one night in the first year that I lived with Ben, there was this lightning storm of torrential rain. I went outside and I stood in a t-shirt hoping I'd be hit by a bolt of lightning and it would somehow shock me out of it. Unfortunately, I wasn't on Zeus's hit list that day. This urge to be shocked
Ren, I don't think it works like that, man. I think you die if you get hit by lightning.
back into reality
No butt play broke them up.
didn't really leave me.
Bro.
I remember one day I was walking back from the shops. I found an old analog television in an alleyway that was being thrown out. I can't quite remember the thought process that led me there. I just remember feeling angry, and I decided to smash the fucking pieces out of the TV in the alley. I picked it above my head and I hurled it towards the ground. The screen cracked, but it didn't shatter like I hoped it would. I did it again and again and again until there were large shards of glass lining the street. I saw one about the size of a kitchen knife and I picked it up. It's hard to rationally explain self-harm that's not a cry for help, because this wasn't a cry for help. I'd cried for help multiple times and no one listened. The pain I felt inside my body could never be done justice with words. There's a certain horror, a certain frustration of living in a body that would never give me a moment of peace. I felt constantly alienated. I had no doctors to tell me what was going on. They made me feel like a hypochondriac. There are no combination of words in the English language that can express that pain, that can express that frustration. There's no song I could write that would make you understand. In that moment, the closest and truest way I had of communicating my pain was driving a shard of glass into my chest and dragging it across until the blood was dripping down my body. It didn't hurt very much compared to what was already going on inside of me, and it didn't really help me feel better either, but it was truth, and there was beauty in that. Adrenaline gives you a brief moment of respite.
Yeah, I mean, people self-harm to just sometimes just to feel something.
But it wasn't long until I was exactly where I started, just decorated in a little bit more blood than usual. I made sure nobody saw. I didn't want to cause any alarm. I didn't want anyone to be worried. So I cleaned it up when I got home, and then I resumed the life of the undead. In the next episode, I'll tell you the story of when I was stabbed by an ancient sword and when I met one of the most talented people that I know.
I got tears on my sleeves, hold on, and holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks, hold on.
Hold on.
I got tears on my sleeves, hold on, and holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks, hold on. I haven't found no peace, hold on. I get my teeth tied, hold on, and these tears run dry, hold on.
Dude, just the sadness of his story and then how good the music is, it's really like uplifting. Like, I don't know. Like, it's so good. It puts you in a good mood and it makes you feel like grateful that Ren's still
I
around.
get my teeth tied, hold on, and these tears run dry, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes, hold on, two bloodshot eyes. I don't belong here, in a place where life has left me. I'm 25 going on 150. My body feels old and I'm trying to lift the weight from my soul, but it's moving against me. I've emptied out my theodox, I lift my middle finger up, I'm screaming fuck you to all the demons here that keep me stuck. The pain is sharp like paper cuts, I hate too much, but yes I trust. I must combust, I must blow up, I must roll this courage up. Boom, sparks fill the room, I'm feeling the rhythm I move.
I must combust. Boom. Sparks fill the room. Ugh.
You to all the demons here that keep me stuck. The pain is sharp like paper cuts, I hate too much, but yes I trust. I must combust, I must blow up, I must roll this courage up. Boom, sparks fill the room, I'm feeling the rhythm I move. My soul is more worn than the souls in.
Very well said, Kitty. Very well said.
Boom, sparks fill the room, I'm feeling the rhythm I move. My soul is more worn than the soles in my shoes. Nike trainer blues, a man with none to lose. I think I lost my sanity, calamity in shoes. Poor choice maker, I rip out the pages of fate, then I roll them up like bizzle of paper. Taker, lung full of destiny, a man with no part is a very strange entity. Tears on my sleeve.
Man with no what, did he say?
Destiny, a man with no part is a very strange entity. Tears on my sleeves, hold on, and holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks, hold on. I haven't found no peace, hold on. I get my teeth tied, hold on, and these tears run dry, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes, hold on, two bloodshot eyes. Do you ever question your fate? The questions I make, is this all predetermined, the script or a play?
What do you say to friends, family who won't give him a try? Oh. I don't know. I haven't experienced it yet. If I find one, if I do, I'll let you know.
Question your fate. The questions I make, is this all predetermined, the script or a play? Am I the protagonist in this tragedy, or will I be the author of stories unmade? If so, I'll dip in my quill to my ink pot. Keep on.
He said that before too. If it's all written in stone, then maybe this is how it's meant to be.
Predetermined, the script or a play? Am I the protagonist in this tragedy, or will I be the author of stories unmade? If so, I'll dip in my quill.
He's asking if he even has any free will at all. Deep philosophical messages here, guys. So
This
deep.
tragedy, or will I be the author of stories unmade? If so, I'll dip in my quill to my ink pot. Keep on writing, never stop until my beating heart it flops. I'll write a whole different story. Scene one, a boy full of hope, a boy full of glory. Who stutters, I'm up to the top. Would rather be tougher and live it smoothly like butter, and not so bitter from cut up. And so I sit up and shut up. It's like I lit up and struck up the courage, never to fuck up. And now I'm feeling the ruckus, feeling the static, and now I'm feeling the flames, and now I'm feeling the strength.
Oh my God. No. No. Just no. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wait, no one told me there was absolute gas in here.
My beating heart it flops. I'll write a whole different story. Scene one, a boy full of hope, a boy full of glory. Who stutters, I'm up to the top. Would rather be tougher and live it smoothly like butter, and not so bitter from cut up. And so I sit up and shut up. It's like I lit up and struck up the courage, never to fuck up. And now I'm feeling the ruckus, feeling the static, and now I'm feeling the flames, and now I'm feeling the strength inside the ring with my pain. My boxing gloves and my hope that I trust to bust an uppercut, cut my demons up.
Oh.
Like a tsunami, smooth like a ping.
Oh my God.
Salvador, I be the dolly, only love like Tsunami, smooth hope.
Was that a Salvador Dali Dalai Lama fucking what the fuck?
That I trust to bust an uppercut, cut my demons up. Boom like a tsunami, smooth like a
Stutter rap. Ren just invented a whole new genre, man.
I trust to bust an uppercut, cut my demons up. Boom like a tsunami, smooth like a punani. Bend the birds, I cut Pagami, Salvador, I be up. Boom like a tsunami, smooth like a punani. Bend the birds, I cut Pagami. Cut my demons up. Boom like a tsunami, smooth like a punani. Bend the birds, I cut Pagami, Salvador, I be the dolly. Only love like Bob Marley. Golden ticket, call me Charlie. Riding Harley's Bengali. Tiger Star, call me Arnie. I'll be back now.
What? Bro, stop, Ren! Calm down, I can't follow it!
Army smooth like a punani, bend the birds like origami, Salvador, I be the Dali, only love like Bob Marley, golden ticket, call me Charlie, riding Harley's Bengali, tiger style, call me Arnie. I'll be back. And I cut the slack, track your facts, relax, shit in the beast, and then seek it in the beast, and I'll reach the canopies, and yes, we climbing, building a brave new world inside a whole new designing. With the
A brave new world, bro. Oh my god.
And I cut the slack, track your facts, relax, shit in the beast, and then seek it in the beast, and I'll reach the canopies, and yes, we climbing, building a brave new world inside a whole new designing. With
He'll reach the canopies, steady growing like trees. Oh my god.
the canopies, and yes, we climbing, building a brave new world inside a whole new designing. With all this fire, we burn like the sun. A new dawn is rising, a new dawn it comes. Yeah, diggity diggity down with all these corporate.
Yeah, I caught the smooth like Punani. I caught that
The
one.
sun, a new dawn is rising, a new dawn it comes. Yeah, diggity diggity down with all these corporations. They burn up the land for the greed that they run. Run deep with their roots, but their roots can be lifted. I'll be your renegade, yes, I'll make a fist kid. Try to seek truth in the kingdom of lies. A boy so lost with two bloodshot eyes. Tears on my sleeves, hold on. And holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks.
Yo, this hook is fire too. Hold on. Hold on, man.
A boy so lost with two bloodshot eyes. Tears on my sleeves, hold on. And holes in these jeans, hold on. I haven't slept in weeks, hold on. I haven't found no peace, hold on. I get my teeth tied, hold on. And these tears run dry, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes, hold on. Two bloodshot eyes. Ha, ha, ha.
What's the name of the song, guys? What's the name of this one?
Two bloodshot eyes.
Thanks, Pixie. Thank you. I'm having fun too.
Two bloodshot eyes.
Oh, man. Whew. I love the artwork here too. Watercolor of a child, it looks like. Oh, it's called Hold On? Okay, yeah, I probably should have figured that out.
I tried to cling on to music in whatever ways I could during the time I was sick.
Okay. This is it's so hard with like the heaviness of the story, and then I'm just like kind of elated with the music. Like it's such a juxtaposition.
During my time in Brighton, whenever my energy would allow it, I'd get myself out onto the streets and I'd go busking, about once every 3 weeks or so. It was my second year in Brighton, and I remember one evening heading home with my guitar and my busking amp after a couple of hours of playing on the street. I remember hearing this amazing ethereal voice while heading through the lanes, and I saw that it was coming from this 16-year-old kid. I've always had a deep admiration and feeling of camaraderie for buskers. There's something about the willingness to be able to bare your soul to a street full of strangers that really moves me. I noticed that the kid didn't have an amp. He was singing totally a cappella, but you'd only hear him if you were within a few meters of him. I knew from years on the street and singing a cappella than myself that an amp can change everything. I had this compulsion to offer him mine. I approached him and I told him that if he plugged in and sang while I played guitar, the whole street would stop in its tracks. And I was right. His voice soared across the street and people started stopping. Not long after, we had the whole street's attention. Something quite magic was happening. This was the first day that I met Sam Tompkins, someone who would be...
Oh my god, there's people just stopping and sitting in the street just to listen to them.
Quite magic was happening. This was the first day that I met Sam Tompkins, someone who would be integral to my whole life changing later on.
Did you guys say Sam was the guy in the I Shot the Sheriff Red Suspenders video wearing the kilt? Is that who Sam was? Or is he the bass player? Or is that just... Am I just totally off there?
The first day that I met Sam Tompkins, someone who would be integral to my whole life changing later on. He had a friend with him,
okay.
this guy called Connor Honeysett, who would later go on to be my manager. For now, they'd just be a couple of teenagers that I'd have to help out on my way home. It's funny how life works like that. I kept up to date with what Sam was doing on social media. There was a part of me that felt like his successes allowed me to live vicariously through someone else who lived an alternate reality.
Sam is not big... Okay. Sam is a singer. You have to unlock him for...
that felt like his successes allowed me to live vicariously through someone else who lived an alternate reality where I never got sick.
Something is happening upstairs. Sorry, guys. I think my cat's just, like, totally destroyed something. Hold on. Guys, let's take a bathroom break. I'll be back in, like, 1 minute. I gotta go check on my cats, man. That sounded bad. Okay. All right. We're good. We're good. Sorry about that, guys.
He was getting videos on SBTV, writing and featuring with some amazing artists, and there were quite a lot of similarities in our writing styles, and all at such a young age. I wasn't really able to do any of that stuff at the time. I was mostly bedbound with the exception of the odd day that I'd be able to go busking. It could have been very easy for that feeling to turn into jealousy, but it never did. I felt truly proud of him. Years later we go on to write a song together called Blind Eyed, which would transform the trajectory of my whole career. During this time I was still desperately jumping from one treatment to another treatment. And now that my diet had become I was still desperate.
Is Rens smoking?
Which would transform the trajectory of my whole career.
Oh, that looks like a joint. Let's go, Ren.
During this time I was still desperately jumping from one treatment to another treatment. And now that my diet had become more limited, I was trying new diets with no luck. As the options in the alternative health world started to dwindle, I started searching for answers in the divine. In the former years I had moments where I found myself sitting in churches, talking in tears to whoever might be listening, or experimenting with energetic healing modalities like Reiki. With time, my searching started taking even more unusual turns. I started looking to things like exorcists. Once you exhaust all rational explanations and treatments, the irrational suddenly starts looking more palatable. I had a skeptic's mind, but I had nothing to lose because there were no other good options. My friend Momoko's mother was from Japan. She aligned herself with a sect of Buddhism called the Nichiren Daishonin. They would chant a repeated phrase over and over again while holding prayer beads. The chant would go, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, over and over again. Its intention was to align you with your innate Buddhahood, to cleanse you of any bad karma and put you in alignment with your true destiny on earth, to find peace, to find tranquility. Momoko's mum gifted me with my own set of beads, and I began to chant every morning.
If there's any religion I feel most connected to, I would probably say it's Buddhism.
Momoko's mum gifted me with my own set of beads, and I began to chant every morning. Eventually I joined a group in Brighton after a serendipitous meeting with an incredibly eccentric, bright, colourful suit-wearing piano tuner. He spotted my beads and he grinned at me and he pulled out his own. We'd sit in a small group and we'd chant for hours sometimes. There was something comforting about trusting the course of my life and illness to an incomprehensible power outside of myself. I spoke openly in these meetings that I loved feeling part of something, but that I really struggled saying with certainty that I believed in it. This was the issue I faced with every religion I temporarily aligned myself with looking for answers. Something in me couldn't bring myself to take ancient texts as gospel, all too aware of how man twists so-called spiritual doctrines to suit his own power-hungry pursuits. I wanted divine proof. I sometimes screamed at the sky or the waves and begged for it. I was answered with sickness. If there was a creator, I was angry with it. The irony was that I envied people of faith. I felt like people who truly trusted themselves to a higher power seemed to possess a level of calm and acceptance that I didn't. One of my stranger encounters was going to see a shaman. The shaman, of course, was a middle-aged white woman in a quite nice-looking cottage in Brighton. She told me to lie down, and she proceeded to lean over my body and made noises like coughing up phlegm while speaking an unknown ancient language that seemed to include whistling noises. After about 20 minutes of making distressed groaning noises over my back, she paused in contemplation for a while and proceeded to tell me that I'd been killed by a sword in my past life. She made sucking noises near the supposed stab site on my chest, and then she spat into a bucket. She then placed a little stone into my hand, and she told me that I had to bury it on a high hill in Brighton on the next full moon.
What in the witchcraft is happening here? Ren, you should run. You should have done Ben ran away from her. The original Hawk Tua girl. Yo, that is a 10 out of 10 comment right there. Ren was ready for Voot. Yeah, Ren was ready for anything, man. I mean, I think we all would have been too.
My hand, and she told me that I had to bury it on a high hill in Brighton on the next full moon. The most depressing part of this story is during the next full moon, I did indeed find a big hill, dug a small hole, and I buried the stone in it. Surprising to say, fuck all happened. It was this journey into the spiritual unknown that led me to a very unsettling experience. I located a therapist online who had claimed to overcome ME herself. She specialised in it and dealt with people's past trauma, but also worked with energies like Reiki. I had to get the train to where she lived. She met me in the car and drove me in silence back to hers. There was a bit of an unusual energy about her. I've always been really good at reading people. I can't quite explain it, but sometimes when I meet someone, it's like I have a sixth sense for whether or not they'll play a significant role in my life. This person's energy felt alien to me. When we arrived at her, she told me that she sometimes would consult with her horses about people's health conditions. It was at this moment I knew that she was probably insane. Nonetheless, I shared a lot about my life. We got into the trauma of living with sickness, what it was like to constantly mourn your own life. It was comforting at first, and it felt like a safe space, until it got a bit weird. One day she offered me a glass of water before a Reiki session, and during the session I fell into a deep sleep. When I came around, multiple hours had passed, which was peculiar for me. I usually have issues with sleeping and couldn't drift off, particularly not in unfamiliar environments. She assured me it was total normal and to get plenty of water, and I thought nothing of it.
Bro just got roofied, I think. That sucks.
Assured me it was total normal and to get plenty of water, and I thought nothing of it. Lines started getting somewhat blurry when she'd invite me for meals with her and her husband. I took it as friendliness, but I noticed that she started messaging me outside of clinic hours. One time I agreed to create music for her in exchange for some extra sessions. Not long after, I started getting strange messages in my Facebook inbox. She started telling me how she knew that all my previous songs had been about her, which they hadn't. When I dismissed this, she would sometimes message me saying that she was outside of my house, telling me that our souls were bonded and that bad things would happen to me if we weren't together. To put it lightly, I was already in a pretty weird emotional place because of years of sickness. So having someone in a position of trust abuse their position like this shook me, and it shook my trust in therapy even more. It shook my trust in people in general. I told her to never contact me again, and I blocked her, but she would still occasionally get through on other numbers. One time she'd phoned my mum's house relentlessly. My mum, knowing the details, told her to stop harassing me and threatened to get the police involved after things which went silent. This was also the year that I met my second ever girlfriend, who I'd later be engaged to for a short amount of time. My little sister had already set the relationship up in her mind. She met this girl in Bristol who she got on with super well, and somehow she wingmanned me and planted a seed in her brain that she'd be perfect for her older brother, me. My sister's friend had moved to Brighton, but I was blissfully unaware of this matchmaking. At this point, I was living in a house share in Rose Hill Terrace in Brighton with some lunatics I'd met at Ben's house, and Momoko had moved down from Cornwall. The house was only meant for 2 people, but Momoko and I had pretended we were married and pretended that we were going to have a baby to be able to get it. As soon as the deed was signed, we moved in with about 5 other friends, one living in the living room, one in the attic, one in the study, one in the conservatory. It's safe to say rent was pretty fucking cheap. One night my friend Luke was throwing a party and she rocked up with a few of her friends. My sister had pretty good taste in girls and I had a crush on her instantly. At some point in the night we both ended up lying on my bedroom floor on a bunch of sofa cushions while about 6 other people were sleeping in various places in my room. One somehow in the upper compartment of my wardrobe. True story. She asked me to tell her a bedtime story and I made up the most unhinged story I could think of. By some sort of miracle she found my madness endearing and we ended up kissing a lot and staring into each other's eyes till we fell asleep. It's strange navigating a relationship when you're sick. I couldn't go out to eat at restaurants because I was allergic to everything. I didn't have the energy to do most normal things that couples do. Some days I'd be so full of brain fog that my personality disappeared, and it was hard to explain that to someone without them thinking that maybe you were just being a bit off with them. Yeah. I think losing Joe, losing Callum, losing the record deal, losing my last girlfriend, it had all made me wary of getting attached to good things. Quite a lot of my illness made me feel ugly, and it's hard to accept love when you feel ugly. Nonetheless, she did love me, and with time our relationship grew. It was around this time I was contacted by a woman called Jennifer Breer, an incredibly inspiring woman whose journey seemed to parallel mine. She was an incredibly ambitious PhD student at Harvard who one day was struck down by a mystery illness that confined her to a wheelchair. She spent most of her life tirelessly searching for a way out. She was doing a Kickstarter to raise money to make a film called Canary in a Coal Mine. It would later go on to be renamed Unrest, and it would go on to win multiple awards, and it's still watchable on Netflix to this day. It's an incredibly important and very moving documentary about the horrors of living with ME. I recommend everyone checks that out. At the time, Unrest. I started health blogging. I created a series of video diaries that I named Me versus ME. It would be a video document of my various trials with different alternative treatment approaches, and generally a look into the life of someone with a chronic illness. I didn't know it back then, but those videos would save my life. I guess I was occupying a place that was needed, as quite quickly many people in the chronic health communities gravitated towards my videos. Every day, I'd be sent messages telling the stories of the people who had fallen in between the cracks in the floorboards. There was heartbreaking stories. Stories of frustration and confusion. People mourning the people that used to be. Some who were new to this world, some who had been there for decades. I tried to help them in whatever way I could. I tried to comfort people. In my own little way, I became somewhat of a spokesperson for the voiceless. I felt their pain like it was my own. This new pursuit gave me a sense of purpose that I desperately needed. Without purpose, I felt useless. I made a lot of friends, and I'd write to them on a daily basis. Some of those friends died. Some of those friends that decided to take their lives, and they were wicked people. I talked to them a lot.
Damn.
It was this that ultimately made me decide to stop, but that wouldn't be until years later. Immersing myself in the horrors of this illness and trying to carry some of the weight for the others while I still wasn't strong enough to carry my own eventually took its toll. Jen Breer had found my videos and she asked me to make a song for her documentary. I was honoured. I wrote a song called Patience. I'll leave you with a video taken at the time to finish off this chapter.
And I've learnt some lessons that will be so valuable for like, so it's a blessing and a curse being this ill because it's completely changed me. Like it's turned me from a little cocky teenager into somebody who's quite this, I guess, prepared for things now. Like I feel like once I've gone through this, I'll throw anything at me and it'll be okay. But at the same time, as much as I see it as a blessing, I hate it. I do hate it. I think it was Thomas Edison that was like, I haven't failed, I've just found 1,000 things that don't work. Which is kind of nice to look at it that way, like I'm just eliminating things. But it really challenges my mind. And yeah, it's just gotten to the point where I'm spending, I'd say like 95% of my life in a bedroom, which kind of sucks. Because my mind is in such a different place in my body. My mind craves life so much.
It's alright, it's okay. I'm feeling brave, gonna face this day. It's okay, it's alright.
Man, it's almost unbelievable how positive and hopeful he's able to stay, even though he had periods of like not such positivity as the easiest way to say it, nicest way to say it, you know what I mean? Like, not everybody would respond like this. And he's literally saying, like, if I can make it, once I get through this, I think I could get through anything. And like, he's trying to, it's just really, truly
I'm feeling brave,
inspirational.
gonna face this day. It's okay, it's alright.
Incredible.
No tears will kiss my cheeks tonight, and it's all good, and I'm just fine. My words ring out like hollow shells. Just slow down, it takes time, but time moves slow, I know this well. And my heart breaks 1,000 times a day. But for every hope that dies, another one takes its place. Because I have the strength of a mountain, and I've got the courage of the deep blue sea, and I have the heart of a lion, and the stars burn bright inside of me. And although you test me, my God, I stand so proudly. Can't you see that I have the strength of a mountain, and I'll take all you throw at me.
Wow. I think his music did save him.
This world is quite scary, I know that, 'cause I've been here for some time. But all that prepares me for a day when I can truly shine. 'Cause
Man, his music is like his own diary, like positive diary. It's his own way to turn something so negative into something positive. And like it's just to help. It was just to help him. Like, who would have thought that he's helping so many people? So many people now are touched by his music. It's really like mind-boggling when you think about it.
all that prepares me for a day when I can truly shine. 'Cause I've been so broken, and picking up fragments of myself, I'll glue them back together so I can stand at the edge of this world and yell.
Some reactors have split up their chapters. I mean, yeah, I'm not too worried about that. That's fine.
Back together so I can stand at the edge of this world and yell that my heart breaks 1,000 times a day. For every hope that dies, another one takes its place. Because I have the strength of a mountain, and I've got the courage of the deep blue sea, and I have the heart of a lion, and the stars burn bright inside of me. And although you test me, my God, I stand so proudly. Can't you see that I have the strength of a mountain, and I'll take all you throw at me. Dust the cobwebs off this sheath, and I'll take the sword of my belief, and in this storm I will not flinch, and I will not move, no, not an inch. Because I have the strength of a mountain, I've got the courage of the deep blue sea, and I...
Man. He's not going to move an inch in a storm, just like a mountain. He's going to dust the cobwebs off his sheath and pull his sword out. like Excalibur out of the stone.
Mountain. I've got the courage of the deep blue sea, and I'll have the heart of a lion, and the stars they burn bright inside of me. But although you test me, my God, I stand so proudly, can't you see? I have the strength of a mountain, and I'll take all you throw at me.
That was a beautiful song. That was great. That was, oh, man, that was beautiful.
I'm going to try and hold it together throughout this one.
Oh, wow. Thanks for sharing that, Sherry S.
2015 was the worst year of my life. At the end of 2014, I attended a private UK-based ME specialist clinic called Breakspear. For some reason, the treatments had sent my health nosediving, and I became more sick than I'd ever been. I became so weak that I couldn't walk to the bathroom without needing to lie on the floor to recover. I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't read. I couldn't watch TV.
Wow.
All I could do there was lie there in pain. It was obvious during this time that I needed to move back home with my mum again. She moved to Cardiff with a new husband, and they had a spare room, which became my tomb for the next 8 months. At this point, I was so weak that the most that I could manage to do a day was to take a shower. The rest of the time I was confined to my bed. I started reacting even more severely to foods, so every single meal had to be blended into soups or broths to avoid negative reactions. Pain constantly shot through my shin bones and through my feet, like splinters. My stomach would gurgle, and the muscles in my body would constantly twitch, spasm, and ache. My body felt drained of every single ounce of life, and I was so tired, but I was too wired to sleep. I was so full of mental fog that reading a single page on a book seemed impossible. The daylight coming in from behind the curtain hurt my eyes. Loud sounds felt overwhelming. All I could do was wait and pray for sleep, knowing that when I woke from it, nothing would change. I wouldn't feel in any way rested, and all the symptoms would persist. This went on and on and on. It was day after day of physical and mental torture. I thought of concentration camps, of prisoners of war being tortured. At least the escape of death seemed likely. During that time I never got breaks. My whole body burned, my brain was on fire, and I had nowhere to hide. In the merciful moments where I could concentrate, I tenaciously trawled the internet, looking for ways out. My research drew me to a procedure called a fecal transplant that was having success managing things like Crohn's disease or colitis. It had also gained success in some select cases of autoimmune conditions like MS too. At the time, I felt like much of my issues were caused by dysbiosis, which means an imbalance in your gut flora. I noticed that all the food intolerances started after a large course of antibiotics for the parasite. I wondered if the parasite had wreaked havoc on my microbiome before I nuked it with antibiotics that worsened it further.
Yeah.
Fecal transplants can introduce a whole host of...
That makes sense. If you don't, I mean, his body got so used to having those parasites in his microbiome, and now that they're gone, they're not doing the same chemical reactions that his like normal flora are used to having done for them. I mean, that makes sense.
Antibiotics that worsened it further. Fecal transplants can introduce a whole host of probiotic bacteria into your gut, and it can re-establish a healthy homeostasis.
Thanks for being here.
In normal person speak, I wanted to pay to put another person's poop in my butthole. I carried on filming videos from my bed, blogging my experience. I was pretty convinced that during this time I wouldn't be alive much longer, and part of me wanted there to be some kind of document of what I'd been through in hopes that it might help someone later down the line.
And if this illness does kill me, then I want this video. I want somebody somebody who can take notice of this video and do something with it.
I had a fundraiser open to save money for the fecal transplant, which was very slowly creeping up. I needed to save $6,000 in total. I remember my girlfriend wanting to come and visit, but telling her that I didn't want her to. There are a few reasons for this. One, I was pretty sure I was going to die soon. The day before Joe died, I'd been sat with him at a pub, catching up, playing pool, cracking jokes. I'd often wondered if I'd have been hit less hard by his death if I'd been away at university when it happened. For my girlfriend's sake, I wanted her to have distance from me. I also felt ugly. I felt unlovable. I was unable to communicate. And I didn't want her to see me like that. I watched my mum look thinner and more frail every day that she had to watch her son deteriorate. And I felt immense guilt. My mum would often walk in and find me either crying on the bathroom or kitchen floor, having no energy to get back into bed. She'd often sit with me and massage my feet, which always hurt, and she'd hum melodies to me like she would do when I was a little boy. During this whole time, I hadn't picked up my guitar. I barely had any sunlight touch my skin, and I lost a lot of weight. I was about 130 pounds at my lowest, about 8 or 9 stone, which for someone who is 6'1" is very skinny. My average weight is usually about 168 pounds, 12 stone. Every day the same thing. I'd wake up in pain, eat a meal of blended vegetables and chicken, lie with my eyes closed for hours while the world seemed to spin erratically, and I'd often cry as the bones of my legs felt like they wanted to grow out and burst out of my skin. Despite this, what I didn't know is things were about to get a lot worse.
Worse? How? I can't handle it. That's as bad as it can get.
Come June, I've been in bed for about 6 months straight. I've regained some energy to leave the house every now and then to go shopping for groceries with my mum, and I've finally reached my target for the fecal transplant, and my mum drove me to the clinic to get the procedure. Everything seemed to go as smoothly as it could for such a bizarre experience. I received a colonic irrigation, which was like a car wash for your colon. Actually feels pretty good. They then proceeded to put someone else's excrement in my behind. They would repeat this process for 5 consecutive days. When I got home, I realised I felt a little odd, almost manic, and I was hopeful that this meant my energy was coming back. But it wasn't a nice feeling. As the days progressed, I started to feel an innate sense that something was very wrong. It seemed my immune system was going into some sort of overdrive. My brain was buzzing, and the more time that passed, the more uncomfortable I felt. I remember early one morning, I was lying on the kitchen floor after attempting to get a glass of water. My body hurt so much that I was digging my nails into the laminate flooring, screaming.
Glad you're watching this before 7 Sins. You'll get it more. Hey, Jolene, I'm still editing the video, but I actually did react to 7 Sins already, unfortunately. But either way, it'll help me still.
My body hurt so much that I was digging my nails into the laminate flooring, screaming, and my mum ran in and asked me what was wrong. I remember repeating, "I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go," over and over again. I felt myself falling down a deep tunnel in my mind, almost as though my entire soul was tumbling down into an abyss. When I finally crashed to the bottom, I was hit with this immense feeling of stillness and peace. I stopped crying, I sat up, and my mother looked at me, puzzled. I have not felt to this day that sort of serenity that I felt in that moment. I looked around the room and everything seemed to have gained a clarity and quality, but what was most peculiar was the feeling of stillness. There seemed to be some sort of respite from the mental torture and fog in my brain. I still to this day have no explanation for what happened. I looked at my mum, I smiled at her calmly, and I told her that everything was okay now. Her partner Michael came in, and I remember them both looking at me, perplexed. I started speaking fluidly for the first time in months, but it wasn't quite me. I was cracking jokes, being witty. My mum would laugh nervously. I remember feeling as though I was coming up off an ecstasy pill. I felt this underlying feeling of euphoria. I caught myself occasionally erratically snapping my fingers or making whistling noises in between sentences. or staring at some empty part of the room as though there was somebody there, then snapping back to the space and talking to my mum. This feeling of intense euphoria lasted about 48 hours. During this time, I'd adopted some newer strange behaviours. Everything in my room that wasn't parallel bothered me, so I had to make sure it was aligned and facing the same direction. The whistle and the finger click became a new tick, and it started rising in frequency the more time that elapsed. I also noticed that I get stuck on words or sentences when talking to my mum. For example, if I was saying a sentence like, "I'm not sure how I'm feeling today," I would sometimes get stuck on the whole sentence or just a word from it and repeat it about 30 or 40 times before I could move on to the next. So I'm not sure how I'm feeling today, feeling today, feeling today, 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 over and over. I can't really explain why, but it's like saying it carved out a safe space for me.
Wow.
After about 2 days, that feeling of peace and euphoria was swapped out for a feeling of immense dread and doom. I felt fear fill my body unlike any fear that I've ever felt. I'd often wake up in the early hours of the morning screaming at the top of my lungs, a torturous scream that would fill the whole house, a scream like my legs were being sawn off. I felt pure terror. My mum would run in and try and calm me down. Sometimes I'd be thrashing, hitting the mattress, pounding the walls. It usually ended up in me exhausting myself and her stroking my head in her lap as I sobbed. And
This is so heavy, and poor Ren's mom, man. Could you imagine being a mom and having your kid be in such terrible pain and sickness and not being able to help, not knowing what's going on? Wow.
ended up in me exhausting myself and her stroking my head in her lap as I sobbed and repeated the same words over and over again. Everything in these moments terrified me. The compulsion to make everything parallel became a necessity. Whenever I was in the kitchen or car and the dials were facing the wrong way, it taunted me. My mum started taking me to a weekly talk therapist in hopes it would stop me from killing myself. I did catch myself researching the most painless ways to do it. I often daydreamed about death, and it made me feel at peace. At this point, intense paranoid delusions started creeping in. I wondered if what was happening to me was demonic. I don't remember how I got there, but I remember one time speaking on the landline to someone who claimed to be an expert in dark magic. He told me that being around my mum was bad for me. He told me that she was bad. He told me that I needed to do a ritual with black wax candles in order to free myself. I remember ordering black candles.
I mean, I'm not saying this would help in his case, but sometimes, I mean, there is some thing to be said about, like, the placebo effect. Like, even if you, like, this black candle thing, if, I know this isn't in Ren's case, but sometimes people's illnesses can be cured by just them experiencing a, like, placebo and having a change in their thought process.
From eBay, and when they arrived I had a change of heart and I decided against doing this dark magic ritual. I fell asleep that night and I woke up the next day to find the candles totally melted onto the white mantelpiece that they were on. They'd never been lit. I still don't really know for certain if anything of these things happened, but the melted wax was definitely real. I remember picking it off with my nails. There were moments that my rational mind knew that I was hallucinating. Sometimes in the night I would hear perfect string quartet symphonies with no sound source for them to be coming from. I remember one time my mum took me with her to the post office because during this time I'd rarely been left in the house alone. I remember the lady behind the till reaching for some sellotape. As she tugged on the tape, it sounded as though it had been amplified 1,000 times. It was deafeningly loud. I ran out of the store crying and shaking, and I sat in the passenger seat of my mum's car, rocking back and forth, where she found me uncontrollably sobbing, repeating the words, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't, over and over again. My paranoia grew. I boomeranged between thinking I may have been latched onto by some demonic entity, and I became suspicious of even my own family, to thinking I might be part of some sort of twisted experiment, where a group of observers were seeing how far they could push me before I snapped and shattered. My irrational mind concluded that if I start behaving in unexpected ways, I might confuse the people conducting this experiment, and they'd shut it down. I'd sit in my own bed manically grinning in response to the jolt of pain in my legs. I'd say things to Mum and Michael which made no sense at all. This all seemed to be leading up to a very unusual day. I can't quite recall the details of how it happened because it was quite tricky to tell what was reality and what was not. But from what I remember, I was in the car with my mum, parked outside a supermarket, and I'd put my laptop on the roof of the car while I'd helped her with groceries. I'd forgotten it was there and she drove off. It wasn't until about an hour later I noticed and I started panicking. My laptop had on it hundreds of songs from my time in Brighton. It was all I had really to show for my life.
Oh, man.
I was already in such an emotionally fragile space that losing that felt like some sick, torturous joke. We drove back and searched every place it could be with no luck. As we were driving home, my mum pulled up at a junction and something in me snapped. I got out of the car and I ran away from it. I convinced myself this was still part of the experiment, because what else could explain that sort of luck? Once I got far enough away, I proceeded to strip off all my clothes, and I lay in the middle of a road staring up at the sky, laughing in hysterics. This was the opposite of how one should react to losing their computer, and so it seemed like the perfect way to confuse my observers. With time, the police showed up, as did my mother. By some miracle, she convinced them not to take me in or section me, and by a further miracle, they also relayed to my mum that a dented laptop had been handed in an hour earlier. I took this as meaning my experiment had worked. I eventually snuck off as my mum was talking to them. I wandered slowly around this unfamiliar village until I encountered the second angel I would meet in my life.
Man, I was not aware of the depth of his... I mean, he is really struggling with some strong mental health problems. Like, if the mental health is a spectrum, he's towards the, like, severe end of the spectrum here with his paranoia and confirming thoughts and manic behaviors. Like, wow.
This time in the form of a black homeless man. I'm not sure how we got there, but as I was walking, I turned to my side and a man dressed in tattered grey clothes was walking beside me.
I feel like just a random homeless guy at this point. The ending of High Ren hit different now. I might have to rewatch it. I feel like at this point in Ren's life, this random homeless guy might be the person that can relate to him the most. Like, they probably have very similar shared experiences.
He asked me what was wrong, and I explained the best I could the events of the day. I explained that I'd been sick a very long time, that I was tired, so tired, and that I just wanted to be better. The homeless man paused. He put his hand on my shoulders, and he stared into my eyes. His eyes had a light grey tint. They were almost white, and something about his presence made me feel incredibly safe. Incredibly still. He smiled, a kind smile, and he said to me, "Everything's going to be okay, Ren." And then he vanished.
I don't know why, but I just had the thought of the song "What If God Was One of Us" came into my head. What if God was one of us, just a stranger? That could have been that homeless guy, you know? Like,
"Everything's going to be okay, Ren." And then he vanished. I hadn't told him my name.
I was going to say, did he tell him his name?
I never hallucinated anything after that day. I have no real explanation for that day. I chalk it down to a psychotic episode or stress-induced hallucination, but the events which follow put a lot of questions in my mind. What he said to me was very simple, but also very needed. I realise a lot of people might hear these stories and just presume I'm a bit mad, a bit weird, like I do when people tell me their ghost stories. All I can do is tell you my experience and let you derive your own conclusions from it. Anyway, I got home and I started to obsessively research ways to escape this new seemingly psychotic space I was in. It's a strange thing to describe, but it was like me, Ren, was in the passenger seat of my mind while some other entity was steering the ship. I was watching myself do things like scream at night or repeat words over and over, And I think to myself, damn, that's pretty crazy. But I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Every now and then I had moments of lucidity where I was more in control. I was doing things like stimming. I had night terrors, vocal tics. I'd stutter and I'd stammer. And for me...
What is stimming? Anybody know what that is? Anybody tell me what stimming is?
I had night terrors, vocal tics. I'd stutter and I'd stammer. And for me, a lot of that lined up with some sort of transitory or stress-induced autism. I'd known a family with an autistic teenager, and some of the behaviours seemed to line up, which led me to a new pathway of online research.
I have not heard Who Dear God yet. I have not.
I came across this support group for a subset of children with autism called PANDAS, P-A-N-D-A-S. It was believed that these kids had the neurological infection of the Streptococcus bacteria that was causing these autistic-like behaviours. I was presenting with some similar behaviours. These kids would do long courses of antibiotics and their symptoms would diminish or disappear, and they'd be seemingly normal children again. I speculated that the fecal transplant introduced a whole host of new bacteria into my gut, but that I didn't have the immune regulation to be able to control it, and it had sent my entire system into some sort of inflammation overdrive. I researched the most effective antibiotic for Streptococcus, one being penicillin, and I convinced my mum to take me to the doctor, where I faked a stomach bug. I lied to him, and I said I'd had similar things in the past, and the penicillin cleared it right up. He reluctantly prescribed me a 2-week course of antibiotics because I was so persistent. I got home and I started the course. Initially I felt fucking awful, somehow even more tired than usual, and then towards the end of the course I noticed a definite shift in my energy and
He got some bad shit.
comfort. By the end of the course, I noticed a definite shift in my energy and comfort. By the end of the course, my psychotic behaviours had disappeared and my energy felt a lot better. I stayed indefinitely on various herbal antibiotic supplements like oregano oil at this time, having learned that this was also active against certain pathogenic bacteria. Okay. Keep in mind also, I'm just going off script right now, keep in mind if I'd have followed the advice of most of the doctors that I'd seen at the time who were talking to me about my psychotic behaviours, I would have probably been put into a mental facility and medicated with medication that I didn't need, and would have probably gotten a lot worse. Yeah. So it was very lucky that I took no one tells you that antibiotics can treat psychosis, and these antibiotics did actually treat my psychosis. And I was no stranger to the placebo effect. I'd taken everything, it wasn't placebo. It didn't matter. After about a week, I'd finished the course, and some of my more familiar symptoms like fatigue and pain started creeping back again. But that didn't matter, because what this whole experience had taught me was that the origin of my sickness was in fact bacterial, and it was pathogenic. The biggest thing it taught me was I could actually do something about it. I was no stranger to the placebo effect after years of trialing different drugs and supplements.
Yeah, what's the Lyme disease bacteria? It's like I took a course on arthropod disease vectors. It was like mosquitoes and ticks and fleas. I think the Lyme disease bug is like Bergdorfins something.
About it. I was no stranger to the placebo effect.
Bartonella? Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else then.
Years of trialing different drugs and supplements. This wasn't placebo. I took to the internet again and found a world-renowned specialist over in Brussels who was also leading a lot of the cutting-edge research for ME. I got on the phone and made an appointment. He was booked up for the next 9 months, but that gave me enough time to save money. The antibiotics and new herbs I was taking had also given me a new lease of life, and the hope for a cure made me more determined than ever. I started having enough energy to go on walks, which was huge for me at the time. My dad would drive over to my mum's and we'd go out in the car, and I'd take photos of wildlife on beaches. I was picking up my guitar again after months in bed. I eventually invited my girlfriend over and made the decision to move back to Brighton as soon as I was strong enough to. It was around this time that I started working on the album Freckled Angels. I knew that the future tests weren't going to be cheap. I pulled together some old tracks from the days I was working with Sony, and I got hold of Eric and asked his permission to release them, which he graciously granted, so thank you, Eric. I then pulled together some newer material and compiled my first ever album from my bedroom. In those days, I had no real way of promoting myself and no energy to do shows, so it was mostly to be listened to by my friends and family. I named the album Freckled Angels after Joe. Joe was covered head to toe in freckles, and it seemed fitting to dedicate this work to one of the coolest and funniest people I ever knew. Any ounce of energy I did have from my limited reserves, I'd pour into recording that album. It's by no means a work of art, and it's a bit thematically disjointed, but some songs like Crutch or Pocket Full of Pain went a long way to photographing that time. I'ma leave you with a recording of Pocket Full of Pain. Back in those days. Enjoy.
Yo, Shay. It's not dinner time yet. Okay, here we go. My cat's asking for food.
Cool.
Da 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 da. Yeah, 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 yeah. I watch the sun when it rises, when it's climbing the sky. I sit here with the pocket full of pain. I've got tears in my juice, in my mind. There's a noose, but my hope makes me cling to the day. I wanna run with the sun and with the pocket full of pain. I've got tears in my juice, in my mind. There's a noose, but my hope makes me cling to the day. I wanna run with the sun and the moon and the stars till I'm running faster than my pain. I wish I could breathe out this fear, this doubt, send it into the Milky Way. I got my finger on the trigger of a Magnum 44, but survival instinct won't let me bleed.
Finger on the trigger of a money game. Man, he's got tears in his juice and his brain's got a noose. Those were beautiful poetic lyrics. Bear in mind that the only reason Ren is paying for treatment is because he went private, because he fell. Boreella Bergdorf Ferry. Yeah, okay. Cool, okay.
This doubt, send it into the Milky Way. I got my finger on the trigger of a Magnum 44, but survival instinct won't let me bleed. I wanna put a bullet straight in my cerebral tissues place, but my index finger won't let me squeeze. I wanna skate down my vein with the blade till the blood runs thicker than the thoughts in my head. But don't ask me why, this is not my goodbye, it's a suicide failure attempt.
Was that part of the song or one of his takes? I'm just kidding. Bad joke. Wow.
I choose life, I choose life, I choose living. Put the bottles and the pills down, I stand up, I breathe with precision. Calm washes over me like a break in the storm. I close my eyes for a minute, then my troubles transform, and I travel deep into the corners of my mind. I remember the first time I felt hopeless. I think I was 5, cause at the hands of this bully, the lessons that I learned is that this world is not so beautiful. Sometimes it can be burnt by the fires of evil that are living inside the common people just like you and like I. We'll all strive to survive, and we all climb to the top over our brothers and sisters, whether we mean to or not.
Wow. This is a... Yeah, wow. He's just always had good music.
Living inside the common people just like you and like I. We'll all strive to survive, and we all climb to the top over our brothers and sisters, whether we mean to or not, and we get lost in the tide of insecurities and powers.
I mean, he's still talking about greed right now. We climb over our brothers and sisters to get to the top.
Sisters, whether we mean to or not, and we get lost in the tide of insecurities and power seeking fooleries, but happiness don't live inside no jewelleries. In an age of distraction, we would rather tap on our iPhones than stop a war from happening. It's heartbreaking, Satan's patiently waiting for us to mess up big time, so hell on earth will be blatant. So forgive me for wanting to blow my brains out, but I've got a change of heart. It's time for change now, rearrange now, fist in the sky. I say proud, say loud, revolution word on my brain now. It's with the people, yeah, power's with the people. If the people strive for unity, the world it could be equal.
I just got the image of him in hunger holding his fist up. I'm a rebel. I'm a vessel.
Yeah, power's with the people. If the people strive for unity, the world it could be equal. You could be the start of the beginning, a dawn of no stress, no troubles, no sinning, just living. So overthrow evil and greed, put aside your distractions, welcome change with me, welcome change with me, welcome change with me, welcome change, welcome change, welcome change with me, welcome change with me, now welcome change with me, now welcome change, welcome change, welcome change with me. Yeah, 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 yeah. And da-da-da-do.
Right, Sheila?
Before he even had the test results, the
Wow.
doctor in Brussels glanced up from the form he'd asked me to fill out.
All right. We got two more. We can make it. We can make it through this. I can't believe he's still going through. I mean, is he going to have to be taking supplements his whole life? Maybe, I guess we'll find out here, but I don't know. I know once you get Lyme disease, it's like you kind of have it for life. Yeah. I know, it's crazy, Jennifer B. Thank you everybody here watching this with me and experiencing this with me. This is beautiful. This is amazing. Yeah. I know it's bad enough if you do catch it early on with like the bullseye rash on the bite, but like he dealt with it for so long, no way anyone's gonna see there's no bite mark left at that point.
Before he even had the test results, the doctor in Brussels glanced up from the form he'd asked me to fill out, and he said, "You have Lyme disease. We can run the
What?
tests, but I'm certain of it."
What a punch in the gut that would have been. For years and years he's trying to figure out, and now some doctor's just like, yeah, I know what it is. I don't even need the test results. Wow.
I'd heard of Lyme in passing during my hours trawling the internet, but I'd never spent long diving into it. It was an extremely rare disease in the UK that you can get from tick bites, so it never really came across my radar. I sat there, puzzled for a moment. I said, can I get better? He said that many people go on to recover, some don't. Right. I wanted to ask him so many questions, but my mind at that moment was totally blank. The test results eventually came back, sure enough, positive for Lyme and the co-infection Bartonella, along with many other biomarkers.
How did none of his doctors ever check that? Like, I get that it's rare, but like,
enough, positive for Lyme and the co-infection Bartonella, along with many other biomarkers which suggested autoimmunity and immune dysfunction. My whole life I'd been waiting for this moment, to have something printed on a piece of paper that showed that I wasn't actually fucking crazy, that I could shove in the faces of anyone who'd made me feel like a hypochondriac or like a head case. But when
Yeah.
the moment finally came, I felt numb. It was hard to rejoice.
right.
I had the lingering PTSD from the psychotic meltdown the year before, which made it pretty hard to break into the realms of happiness. Instead, I did what I always do. I got home and I took to the internet and I researched the best ways to escape. The summer that I got sick, I spent 2 weeks camping in a small festival in Dorset. One night, me and friends decided to climb a nearby hill to build a bonfire in the woods. On the way there, the fields were full of long grass and deer. 3 people, all my age, who all attended that festival came down with ME or fibromyalgia-like symptoms over the course of the next year. One was a friend of the family who was shut in a dark room for years because the light would be too intense for him. Before that festival, he was bursting with life.
Did they all get bitten by ticks and not realize it? I mean, so like, I know this, the tick has to be embedded in your skin for like 16, 24, 36 hours, something like. It's got to be embedded in you for, I think, a day, give or take, before it can transmit the Lyme disease bacteria. So like, if you usually you would feel or catch a tick on you pretty quickly, but sometimes not. I mean, especially if they're the small nymphs that aren't adults yet. Wow.
A successful capoeira dancer reduced to a zombie. Lyme disease seemed to be as much of a medical labyrinth as ME was.
You don't feel that? I mean, I've had ticks on me before. You don't feel them bite you necessarily, but you feel them crawling on you before they bite you. And then, like, I've had one embedded in me twice, and I like just felt it as I was like taking clothes off or like, I don't know. I live in Michigan, so we have like a lot of ticks. So it's always a thing to, like, when you're out in nature, when you get back, you want to really check your whole body for ticks. So that just might not be like in people's minds in the UK, especially not back in those times. But like, I still feel like, well, and if you're at a festival, you're not showering, you're camping. There's not as much awareness about it. So it makes sense. I mean, yeah, you're not going to notice a little tick on your skin. And I know they have like they emit like a numbing agent or something. So yeah, you don't feel it at all. Tip checks are necessary. Yep. Always tick checks there. Always tuck your pants in your socks and tick check afterwards. I play disc golf a lot in the summer, so it's always, I'm literally like every hole on disc golf, I'm looking down on I'm looking at my legs and pants like every single hole just to see if there's a tick. And there's been a lot of times that I've seen one just crawling around. But if you're aware of it, you usually will catch the tick before it's embedded in you. But I know someone who got, I know someone who has alpha-gal. One of my old coworkers has alpha-gal from a tick bite. That's another disease you can get. So he's allergic to mammalian meat now. He can't eat pork or beef. He can only eat like bird meat. Yeah, ticks suck. 10 to 40 cases of Lyme disease in Washington. Most are from outside of the state. Yeah.
On one side, there was a whole host of specialists who believed Lyme bacteria becomes chronic, evades the immune system response, can sometimes evade testing, and leads to debilitating symptoms unless treated with a long course of antibiotics. On the other side were doctors who claimed that Lyme can't persist. It's easily treatable with a 2-week course of doxycycline, and further symptoms following that must be due to an autoimmune response triggered by the Lyme, or perhaps an unrelated, undiscovered cause. I educated myself as best I could on all theories, trawling through research papers on PubMed, conversing people in support groups, often
There was the bullseye rash right there. That's typical Lyme disease tick bite right there. If the tick has Lyme disease, you will almost always get like that bullseye rash.
Contacting leading Lyme scientists via email or phone to ask them questions. Lyme disease is caused by Borrelia, a spirochete bacteria that causes symptoms like extreme fatigue, confusion, joint pain, heart problems, digestive issues, anxiety, depression, and in extreme cases, hallucinations. So
wow, that literally checked all the boxes.
Everything was adding up. I fell down internet rabbit holes of learning how Borrelia produces outer membrane vesicles, which contain outer surface proteins which can modulate your entire immune response, essentially dampening it for its own survival. It was a truly insidious pathogen, a smart one out of a twisted horror sci-fi. There would be online groups claiming it was created in a lab in Plum Island off America and weaponized. Due to the widespread suffering it seemed to cause, and given how hard it was to treat, it was easy to see how people gravitated towards these sorts of superstitions and speculations. The main thing that made my head swim was the sheer number of treatment options, in part a byproduct of the cognitive dissonance in the medical industry at the time. There were countless antibiotic protocols, herbal protocols, immune system modulating protocols, wackier ones where people would be stinging themselves with bees or swallowing certain helminth parasites to modulate their immune systems. It was a wild west, and I wasn't so naive to be unaware that there were a lot of quacks in that space, selling people snake oil, financially taking advantage of desperation. Like a lot of the medical industry, I despise people and companies who see opportunity to profit from other people's misery. If you're watching this video, and you're one of those people, I would highly consider switching your role in the world and being on the right side. One common factor a lot of these protocols seem to share was you would certainly get a lot worse before you got any better. There was something called the Jarisch-Herxheimer reaction. As you kill off the pathogens in your system, they release biotoxins in your body which are eventually cleared out by your kidneys and liver. These can cause systemic inflammation, additional fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, pain, flu-like feelings.
So that's what was happening when he was eating the antibiotics. It was the toxins they were releasing. My mother removed a tick by lighting a match and burning the tick off. Generally, that is not a good way to remove a tick. And the reason is a tick's bite, it gets in and it secretes what is it? Like a concreting agent where it like actually becomes, it melds with your skin, and the tick can't get itself out because it's like stuck in your skin. If the tick has been in you long enough for that to have happened, which is usually like 16 hours or something, I think. If you burn it, you're literally gonna get all of its guts. It's gonna like puke its guts into your blood and into your skin. You don't want to burn a tick off. You want to yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But I'm just for anybody, avoid burning the tick off. The best thing is to get like one of those tick removers, or even like suffocate it with alcohol so it will back itself out. Or die, and then you can pull it out, but you don't want to like burn it because it can actually regurgitate bacteria back into you.
I was no stranger to these things already, but when they got even worse, it was a mental battle. I sought out as many success stories as I could, and I looked for common threads in the ones of the people who made a full recovery. It seemed like long courses of antibiotics were working for some people, but to do it safely I needed to be in the care of a specialist. The NHS were fucking useless. After multiple appointments, one with an infectious disease specialist, they told me the most they could give me was a couple-week course of doxycycline. I knew that probably wouldn't be enough. They told me chronic Lyme wasn't something that they recognised. I presented them with printouts of much of the research I'd gathered online for the most recent studies, which they dismissed. One of them told me I seemed obsessed, and they asked me if I thought about getting a hobby. I fantasised about dragging him by his tie across his desk and pressing a stapler into his skull.
Yeah,
then I politely got up and left.
What the fuck?
Doxycycline would lead to improvements for a short time frame, and then my symptoms would come creeping back. I tried many antibiotic and herbal approaches to treat the Lyme without much luck. I tried things like Rife treatment, which is essentially running an electromagnetic pulse through your body in hopes it will kill the bacteria. I was desperate. It seemed that America took Lyme disease far more seriously than the UK, which made sense as it was far more prominent there. I settled on a doctor called Dr. Jemsak over in Washington, and when I could, I would busk or I'd sell music online to raise money. My girlfriend at the time also ran a fundraiser, and my mum's...
From Stella, from what I've seen, is alcohol will suffocate them and make them like back out of your skin if they're not like cemented in there yet. I don't think alcohol will make them throw up.
said that she'd also help contribute towards flights. It's not easy being sick and broke, but somehow we made it work. A week before I was due to fly out, something happened.
Well, when I had a little tick in me, this is just my own anecdote, so I'm not saying this is like true, but I had a little nymph, not an adult, and I soaked a cotton swab in alcohol and held it there for like 20 minutes, and it like backed out. It was like suffocating.
happened which changed my whole life.
Hey.
I've always been a believer in the good that you're putting out in the world coming back to you. Luck, therefore, is more of a karmic consequence. When I was making video blogs, I wasn't doing it to build a following or for any sort of social merit or personal gain. I was doing it because I thought I was going to die. I was doing it because I wanted to feel like I'd left some sort of positive mark on the world, like I'd helped. I remember waking up one.
This is from me petting my cat. I literally brushed him earlier. Dude, how are you losing so much hair? How?
Like I'd left some sort of positive mark on the world, like I'd helped. I remember waking up one morning and going through the comment section of the latest video I'd posted, only to find a message from a British doctor who is running a clinic over in Germany in Los Angeles. He is the third and final angel of this story. He was.
Yeah, Sherry, you're right. You do want to pull it out with a tweezer. They also have like special tick, like utensil that you can pull out. What you want to do is make sure you don't pull, like, a lot of people will have the instinct to grab the tick and pull it out with their fingers, but the head will tend to stay, because of the like concreting agent that it has, the head will tend to stay embedded, so you like pop the tick's head off. So you want to use the tweezers so you can like get at the base of its face and make sure you actually pull its head out as well, instead of just his body and leaving his head inside of you, because then the bacteria.
He's reaching out to offer to help.
Sorry, I didn't want this to turn into like a tick educational seminar here, but just my 2 cents. I have kind of significant experience with ticks.
He was reaching out to offer to help, and he didn't want anything in return. We exchanged messages and ended up jumping on a video call together. The angel explained that he sympathized with my story. His son was a musician, and at his clinic he'd seen firsthand the countless times the destruction that Lyme disease was causing. He explained his clinic was involved in cutting-edge stem cell procedures and seeing promising results for various autoimmune and Lyme patients. The cost of the procedure was upwards of $25,000, something that I could never afford. But he said that every year he personally selected patients to attend his clinic for free. He would offer me the treatment free of charge. All he wanted me to do was document my experience. It made sense to me that if Borrelia was able to modulate the immune system for its own survival, that an intervention that focused on immunological homeostasis would help. The clinic also offered antibacterial IVs targeting the Lyme and various other treatments intended to build the body back up after years of chronic health complications. I was kind of in shock. When a stranger reaches out and offers something so generous, it's natural to doubt his intentions, but something told me to trust this kind offer. I really had nothing to lose. And as morbid as it sounds, my willingness to die made it easy to throw myself into a more experimental procedure. There was also some security in the fact that he wanted me to document my experience and share it with the world. If it had been more sinister, surely he wouldn't want that sort of exposure. I decided I'd still go to the initial consultation with Dr. Jemsek, as I'd raised the money, but I would catch a flight to LA once it was done. Money was still an issue. The entire treatment length was about 6 weeks, and back then I could have never afforded the accommodation for that long. I decided to hop on Facebook, and I found a Lyme support group based in LA. There, I found people going through the treatment at the clinic who were happy to put me up in their guest rooms. Despite all our faults, human beings' ability to empathize, lift up strangers, and collectively solve problems purely because it's the right thing to do is such a beautiful characteristic to carry. I sincerely hope that we can find ways to hold on to our own empathy and humanity as we step into the future. I believe these traits will save us as a species. Survival of the fittest is a myth in a society where we have all our basic needs met. It becomes survival of those willing to cooperate.
Yup. I could not agree with that more.
Time came and I flew out to America with Momoko, keeping me company and keeping an eye out in case my health crashed. I went to the initial consultation.
Corgi Daddy, I think you're right, man. We are all one. Like, we wouldn't be who we are without each other. Like, if just in isolation, you rely on everyone else to be, like, we are all part of the same thing.
In Washington D.C., they recommended that I get on a minimum of a year-long course of various antibiotics and supplements, some to be rotated. I saw this as my fallback plan if the stem cells didn't work. We then headed to LA. It was summertime, so it was boiling. The clinic was based in Beverly Hills. The juxtaposition of spending most of my life in waiting rooms that were falling apart, feeling like a defective product on a conveyor belt that's being rushed along only to be dismissed, to then go into being in what felt like a 5-star health spa where there seemed to be a genuine care and interest for my well-being, was quite odd. I was greeted enthusiastically by the doctor. He seemed a lot younger than his age.
See, that's the kind of, maybe it's different in the UK, but like that's the kind of doctor treatment I'm used to. I was gonna say that earlier, but like whenever I've met with a doctor, they've been genuinely curious and helpful and like nice and all these things that I feel like weren't being checked off when he was talking about his other doctors.
When I mentioned this, he laughed and he said it was the stem cells. He seemed a lot, my well-being was quite odd. I was greeted enthusiastically by the doctor. He seemed a lot younger than his age. When I mentioned this, he laughed and he said it was the stem cells. As we spoke, I could see his childlike enthusiasm for what they were doing at the clinic. Stem cells were very in vogue at the time. There was also much territory to explore, and the potential of what they could offer harder to treat diseases was incredibly exciting and promising. It was hard not to feel some of that contagious excitement leaking from the doctor. He explained that because I've been sick and misdiagnosed for so long, it wasn't going to be easy. There was no magic fix. At times I might feel like giving up, but I should trust the process. So I did. When we first arrived, I was staying on the floor of a young couple's apartment. They were just starting treatment at the clinic. Fontaine was a songwriter and he was an actor. One night he asked me if I liked bikes, and then he took me out on the back of his Harley Davidson and drove at high speed through the hills surrounding LA. It was interesting talking to Fontaine about her experience. I'd found people I could relate to online, but very rarely did I meet people in person whose experience had mirrored my own. She'd also been through the ringer of misdiagnoses, medical dismissal, left to suffer, trying desperately to claw back her own life. I started to realise this problem wasn't localised to the UK. It was global. So many people were going missing and screaming into a void. The first week at the clinic was aimed at building my body back up. I would sit for hours while various vitamins and nutrients were dripped into my body to address any deficiencies that may have occurred from years of being sick. They also offered talk therapy, lymphatic drainage massage, ways to calm your nervous system that would aid healing. I was still having to pinch myself that this was all free. I felt guilty for the people who had to pay. It wasn't easy. Occasionally I'd have an immune reaction to one of the IV drips. I didn't know at the time, but I had mast cell activation syndrome, which meant my body would become highly inflamed in response to many food, vitamins, even things like perfumes or scents from everyday cleaning products could set it off. Wow. A year later, while in the German clinic, I would be minutes away from nearly dying after going into anaphylactic shock during an IV drip. A nurse luckily caught me in the nick of time and injected me with an EpiPen. I spent a night in the emergency ward with Germans who couldn't speak a word of English, who put me on an electrolyte drip that made me feel even worse. During the second week in LA, I moved places to stay with another couple. The husband had been a prop and set designer for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Wow. They were extremely generous with their time and space and became almost surrogate parents to me and Momoko. There is an unusual companionship you feel with someone who has faced similar levels of suffering as yourself, like an unspoken bridge of understanding. At the time, I was having difficulties with my girlfriend. I wanted her to come with me to LA, as this felt like a pretty pivotal moment in my life. It was a time where I really just wanted to feel safe, but she couldn't take the time off work. I think I felt a little bit funny about the fact Momoko had made the time and sacrificed her own work and she hadn't. She was being distant with me whenever we spoke on the phone, which frustrated me more and more. We ended up arguing a fair bit. I think this is the beginning of seeds that would soon grow into finding extremely difficult to be in relationships in general. I usually feel pretty unlovable, extremely isolated, very antisocial. I felt alienated, often bitter that most people go through their lives not knowing what it's like to hurt every day. That they didn't appreciate the freedom their bodies allowed them as they should. To be alive and to not hurt is a blessing.
Man, I mean, we all can relate to that to at least a little bit. Because, like, man, you realize how much you take health for granted when you get sick. Even when you get, like, a sore throat, you're just like, damn, like, I really take for granted mental health in Iceland is a joke. Hey, speaking of Iceland, I got this shirt in Iceland. We got whales. We got that. I forget what that was. This is like a watermark print of a local artist in Iceland. Anyways, you know, we take health for granted. Like, even when we have, like, a sore throat, it's just like, wow, you really forget. It's so easy to take things for granted. Like, every little thing is so easy to take for granted.
To be alive and not hurt is all I want. The day of the stem cell transplant finally arrived, and I was nervous, as you would be getting a giant fucking metal rod shoved into your skin. The doctors offered me an anti-anxiety med, and I was never one to turn down free drugs. With autologous stem cell transplant,
She looked up at me and whispered, "Mama, I didn't know my body could do this to me." Wow. Yeah.
they take cells from your own fat, centrifuge them, and then do some magic science shit and then feed them back to you in an IV. To acquire these cells, they have to do liposuction. The issue was I was already skinnier than a shadow on a cloudy day. They would usually take the fat from the stomach, but as I had virtually no body fat, they had to go in through the back near my coccyx. They spent about 20 minutes sawing away at your insides and separating your muscle from fat. Then they inject you with a liquid that breaks it down and they suck it back out. Fresh for the stem cell harvest. There's a video of me drugged up and laughing as a needle as big as my forearm gets rammed into my back.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I returned home pretty bruised up, but full of hope.
Like they're digging for gold.
Yeah.
And, so I'm pretty kind of bruised up. I've got these two little holes here where they took the stem cells out and they put them back in my arm.
Looks like he had a failed, like butt dimple piercings there.
You can't really see on this camera because the light's too much, but I've got more holes in my arm than a Scottish heroin addict.
I'd met people at the clinic who were further along the process than me, who were singing the praises of how much better they felt. For the first 3 months I didn't really notice much, but I was told it would take time. I was already doing somewhat better from the 6 weeks of IVs. It's an unusual psychological space to be teetering on the precipice of hope that your whole life could change. There's a certain tension and a certain excitement that comes with that. I was also having big problems with my girlfriend at the time. I'd found out some things that had really shaken my trust. In retrospect, I should have just walked away then and there, but I held on because part of me blamed myself. In my sickness, I held people at a distance, so I felt like I deserved negative things. We would fight a lot. The health problems added a whole new dimension to something that would be hard for any couple. I couldn't trust that she loved me as much as she said she did because of certain things that I found out. A few months after the transplant, me and her decided to get away from everything and stay with her mother on the south of Spain. One night, we were sat on the grass, looking up at the sky, being surrounded by avocado and lemon trees. It felt like we were in some sort of Eden-like paradise. She asked me to marry her. It was her way of proving that she loved me and would always love me. And I said yes, but I meant no. Even when we went to pick out rings, I just felt scared. I lost the ability to trust love. I don't fully blame her for that. She was an awesome person trying to navigate a complicated situation. I blame my sickness. My sickness was an inseparable for me, and so I blame myself. After about a month of being home, she sat down with me one day and told me she decided to move to Australia for a year. She told me it wouldn't change anything between us. I had my doubts. Despite the additional stress in my life, something amazing was happening. About 4 months after the stem cell transplant, I noticed the desire to leave the house. I noticed more colour in my skin. I joined a gym that was a 3-minute walk from my house. I started working out for the first time in years. Music started pouring back into my life. I was singing more. I was producing more. And this was all leading up to my favourite chapter so far.
Oh my God, there's a positive chapter in here? You guys are telling me the eighth chapter is maybe positive? Oh, please. I mean, obviously we know it's a little positive because dude's blown up and made amazing music. Why are you clawing me? Hey.
Oh, that sounds wavy. Oh, shit. It's like I don't work. No.
know Kitty in the garden, right? It's literally an hour and a half before he gets dinner. Like, he's little shit.
Shit.
Is this Sam? Is this Sam? This isn't Big Push, right? This is Sam. That looks... Oh, yep. Okay. Oh, thanks, Alba.
My headphones only working on the left side, but I try to live the right life. My eyes wide and I strive to stop my demons gripping from the inside. This road is dark and I can't find the batteries for my flashlight. I'm blind-eyed and outside.
Ren, go.
Whoa. I can't tell who's better. Bro, they need to have like a like not battle rap, but like a battle melody. They need to have like battle singing. I know, Carol. I have a tuxedo and a tabby. My tuxedo loses hair like he's I don't even know what. And my tabby like never loses hair almost. What a beautiful scene, man. Just beautiful, delicate, heavenly music. And there's a crowd of people enjoying it. Total strangers. To me, that is what life is about. This is humanity right here, man. People connecting on a level that is beyond words.
These drugs don't work. The pain it takes control. Blood-stained shirt. I feel like I'm always being chased by the devil.
Alright, yeah, I will have to watch that, Silly Wabbit. It's so beautiful. The juxtaposition might be the word of the day, but like the lyrics, the heaviness of the lyrics, but then the music, it's like the lyrics are down here, but the music is way up. Like the singing and the acapella, they balance each other out so beautifully.
Yo, I try to talk, but I can't seem to get my spoken words right. And I try to keep my stutter alive. And this life, it can be ish, right? Cut you like a flip knife, twist and make you sick, right?
And man, like we were talking about before, like would Ren be the same if he hadn't gone through what he had gone through? Like, he would never have written lyrics like this. You know what I mean? Like, he would never have written such deep lyrics about pain and drugs and stuttering and all this if he had never gone through that. Oh, I got another warning on my live. Guys, if this stream just cuts out suddenly, it's because we're getting like copyright strikes on here. So sorry about that in advance if that happens.
Right, cut you like a flip knife, twist and make you sick, right? And I feel maybe I'll be better
If it does happen, it should be back in like a minute, I think. That's kind of what happened last time. Maybe we'll have to just skip over the song, but we'll see. Shouldn't happen? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just got another warning, which is what happened before.
So I redirect the calls from my phone. I learned so many lessons from depression. But in essence, I'm just wishing that these bad thoughts were gone.
So beautiful, man. I think it's because YouTube I think it's because I'm live. I think if I had like recorded this first and then uploaded it, we would be okay, because YouTube like checks it, and then I'll like, they'll say like, hey, and then I'll be like, no. But since I'm live, they're just like, hey, this is like setting off a flag. Auto mod flagging, yeah, that's what yeah. I like how some people are like super skeptical of the cameraman, and then other people are like looking and smiling.
Let's wait on this verse, it's actually mad.
Sometimes I guess, sometimes it's when it's like time is against me. In my mind, I kind of mind, yet on my mind it tortures me. But I shine, cause when I shine, it's like my shine, they set me free. And I rhyme, so
He shines his light, the darker his shadow gets. It's weird that this would be copywritten, though. It's like a live performance out in public. Like, anybody could have filmed it on their phone, and like, it's not like they're just like performing for free. So why would there be a, I don't know.
when it's like time is against me. In my mind, I kind of mind, yet on my mind it tortures me. But I shine, cause when I shine, it's like my shine, they set me free. And I rhyme, so I shine so bright, these rhymes come out of me. Times I bleed, times I crawl, times I slip, times I fall, times my back's up against the wall, so hard that the whole building could fall. Times I bruise, times I break, times I'm true, times I'm fake, times I'm when the forward is to open and just swallow me for goodness sake. I think I'm gonna break you, times I'm fake, times I'm when the forward is to open and just swallow me for goodness sake. I think I'm gonna break, cause the ache in his face, I'm awake in the world full of days. Blessing the brakes with the brakes they break, and I'm trapping my universe in the relate in the way. Wait at the world, don't wait, we make mistakes when it's all at stake. Top cake, we eat top cake, sometimes no time for double taste, but
That's just the way life goes sometimes.
I don't wanna end up in the gutter being bad, but my trouble face down in the pocket where the sun don't shine. I'm coming on the back, on the track, and the top, and there's nothing no peace, like I never listen, I'm packing.
Bro, oh my god.
That's just the way life goes sometimes.
I don't wanna end up in the gutter being bad, but my trouble face down in the pocket where the sun don't shine. I'm coming on
Wait, end up in the gutter from his trouble face down in a puddle. Isn't that how Edgar Allan Poe was found dead? Wasn't he found like dead in the gutter with his face down in a puddle or something? I swear that was...
the back, on the track, and the top, and there's nothing no peace. Gutter being bad, but my trouble face down in the pocket where the sun don't shine. I'm coming on the back, on the track, and the top, and there's nothing no peace, like I never listen, I'm packing, and I'm praying. Oh Lord, take this pain away.
Wow.
Blind eye. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank
Wow.
you. Okay, so yeah.
Sam has the pipes, dude. Sam has got the pipes.
So yeah, so that was a song that me and Ren wrote. If you want to follow
I like how they got some Stellas.
On Instagram, it's Ren Makes Music, that's R-E-N Makes Music. I am Sam Tompkins UK, that's Sam Tompkins
They got
UK.
the
This
4
next song
pints of
is from
Stella
Same Old
right there.
Situation. We wrote this not so long ago. Ren Makes Music, that's it.
All right, we made it. We made it, guys. We made it to the last chapter. We made it. Here we go. That song was beautiful. Wait, what is this?
I was sat in a cafe across from a strange French man in a suit. I had to decide over a 5-minute drink if this was the man that I was going to live with for the next year of my life. A week before, I'd been sat in the same cafe with
That was weird. What? I thought that was a song starting. Oh no. Are we back? And we're back. All right, here we go. Okay, we made it. We made it to the last chapter. Favorite chapter, guys. The chapter of resilience. The chapter of coming out of a dark place. Finding some light. I mean, that's kind of what he said at the end of the last chapter.
A week before, I'd been thinking if this was the man that I was going to live with for the next year of my life. A week before, I'd been sat in the same cafe with a Polish man. My friend Luke had put me in touch. Me and my girlfriend had decided to move into separate houses in hopes it would fix our crumbling relationship. The guy seemed pretty chill online, and so I'd already agreed to move in with him. This was just a little informal meet before we did. A few minutes in, I instantly regretted everything.
Uh-oh.
He told me a story of how the week before he'd come home drunk and he'd pissed all over his own living room and was in hysterics about it. I laughed nervously, taking a sip of water as I imagined a future of watching Netflix shows near a carpet that stank of piss. He then went on to tell me a story of how this girl that he'd liked had rejected his advances. So he'd, in his own words, grabbed her by the pussy and she slapped him. He wasn't sure.
Okay, Donald Trump. You deserve that slap and a little bit more, I would say. Jeez. Bro, you don't just... What? That's literally... like... the R word, dude. You can't do that.
So he'd, in his own words, grabbed her by the pussy and she slapped him. He wasn't sure if it was going to work out between them. I was certain...
Oh, I wonder why, dude. I wonder why. Maybe because you're like literally sexually abusing her? Like what?
And it wasn't going to work out between them. I didn't laugh this time. I made an excuse and I left. When I got home, I messaged him, making up a lie that me and my girlfriend had patched things up and she'd be moving with me instead. I had a week to find a new roommate. I was, for all intents and purposes, a loud little bugger. I'd often spend unhealthy amounts of time making beats, so the person that I moved in with needed to be able to tolerate noise. I found this Facebook group called Brighton Bands of Musicians and I posted on it. It went something like this. Hi, I'm a noisy person and I'm looking for another noisy person to live with. Enter the Frenchman. He'd moved from France in hopes of kick-starting his music career. He was working in a restaurant and
This is Romaine, okay, right? This is Romaine.
busking on the streets whenever he had time.
Love Romaine
He was, for the
skirts.
better part of the word, eccentric, and at first I couldn't quite place him. The bar was set extremely low by the carpet-pissing sex offender though, so the Frenchman could have probably told me he was part of an extreme terrorist organisation, and I'd probably said, "Great mate, when can you move in?" The house was only meant for two.
Dude, Ren is funny when he wants to be. Even in his music. He's cheeky.
But in true cheapskate style, we found a third housemate called Tom, who was probably one of the funniest people I've ever met. Tom would go on hour-long rants about how Nicolas Cage is the world's best actor.
I said, put the bunny back in the box.
And he makes a compelling case too. That Frenchman was Romain Caesar. We'd go on to form a band called The Big Push, and he'd become one of my closest friends. The second week we moved in
Was that a joke? I feel like Nick Cage sucks, doesn't he?
together, it was his birthday, so me and Tom decided to gaffer tape about 50 baguettes and bunches of garlics to the walls and the ceilings to decorate. It was 2016 and political correctness hadn't come into full effect. He still didn't think it was very funny. My energy was only had some bunches of garlics to the walls and the ceilings to decorate. It was 2016 and political correctness hadn't come into full effect. He still didn't think it was very funny. My energy was only improving during this time, although progress was slow. The doctor had recommended I do a second transplant to speed things up. I returned to LA for the second time with my close friend Saran and went through the motions again. Eventually, I'd switched to their sister clinic in Frankfurt, where I entered one of the more unusual periods of my life. The UK has border regulations.
That is Johnny Depp from Blow. I've seen that movie a couple times. He's moving big amounts of cocaine.
More unusual
Cocaine.
periods of my life. The UK has border regulations on certain medications and supplements. Some I shouldn't have been taking back with me. I remember fashioning a hidden compartment in my suitcase where I would smuggle IV bags full of various nutrients and immune modulating drugs over the border. I did this a few times. One drug, Filgrastim, was often given to AIDS or cancer patients with low neutrophil counts. On my tests, my neutrophils were always outside of range on the lower side, so the injections would theoretically raise them. The issue was I was still broke. I don't think the doctor realised how broke. I was meant to pay for private nurse to administer the drips, but I couldn't afford it. So without telling the doctor, I taught myself how to administer an IV watching YouTube tutorial videos.
Oh my god.
First, it was very messy. I messed up a lot of veins trying to get the catheter to stay in. There was a lot of blood, but eventually I got the hang of it. I'd be sitting in the living room watching One Punch Man while an IV bag dripped slowly into my veins, and day by day I got stronger and stronger. The issue was I started...
Man, if that isn't symbolic of Ren's whole journey, man. Just doing it himself, dude. Just doing it himself.
Drip slowly into my veins, and day by day I got stronger and stronger. The issue was I started noticing my food intolerances getting worse. The stem cells had improved my pain, energy, clarity of thought, but it worsened my ability to tolerate food, something I later learned was caused by MCAS, or mast cell activation syndrome. Some other stories also started circulating online groups of people getting far worse after the stem cell transplant. I can't say that this didn't shake me. As more time elapsed, I learned of legal cases that were opened against the clinic for malpractice. The clinic in Beverly Hills eventually shut its doors. It was hard to know how to feel about this. The doctor had been my saving grace. He'd pulled me out of a half existence, but I could see where people's frustrations were coming from. As the clinic grew in popularity, I think its resources became stretched, and its communication became worse. Nonetheless, that man will always remain the third angel in my tale, and I'll always be grateful. It's hard for me to definitively recommend stem cells. I believe it's a gamble. Some got worse, but they did actually really help me. They didn't cure me, and some of my symptoms got worse, but they allowed me to be an active member of society again, and that was huge for me. A few more months passed. My girlfriend had moved to Australia, but she was being very distant with me and rarely answering calls. She broke up with me on Christmas Day while I was visiting my mum. I took it very badly, but it was also symbolically the end of one chapter and the start of the next. Despite our difficulties...
Christmas Day, man? She couldn't have picked like any other day?
I'm still grateful for the time we shared. There's always two sides to every story, and I don't imagine it was easy being with someone who was tormented by my health problems as I was during the time. I returned back to Brighton, and then I started living. for the first time in years, really living.
Oh,
Me, Romain and Tom would throw parties nearly every night. I didn't drink or do drugs, but I was high on being able to participate.
right?
I felt like I was living in Brighton for the first time in my life.
High on life.
I was able
Let's
to
go,
walk
Ren.
around, to take in the city, to live. I also started getting the attention of women. During my teen years, I wasn't the best looking and I was a bit awkward. During my early 20s, I was so sick I rarely went out. So this was new for me, and I threw myself in head first. I realised that I really like pretty girls, and pretty girls apparently like boys who make music.
Ren's got a little lover boy, a little Riz going on. Okay, let's go, Ren.
Head first. I realised that I really like pretty girls, and pretty girls apparently like boys who make music. A lot of nights I'd go out by myself around Brighton and end up meeting a whole bunch of beautiful women. One night I ended up breaking into the Hilton Hotel with a girl that I just met. We managed to get onto the roof, but we were chased down the flights of stairs by security. We ended up having sex on the beach at 2 in the morning while the tide came in. The parties we throw would get crazier and crazier. There'd be times where everyone was half naked by the end of the night. I'd find myself in strange situations where I was having sex on a living room sofa with 2 girls while some random dude sat smoking a joint on a nearby table.
What? That sounds like a scene out of like the 1960s, man. Like what?
I noticed this guy who was a friend of Romain's who kept passing out on our sofa. One time he woke up covered in scratches from this Mexican girl who had been telling the stories the night before of all the people she'd stabbed. This guy was Goran Kendall. He sang like Bob Dylan, and he looked like he'd fallen out of a punk rock band. I liked him. Me, Romain and Goran were all musicians, and naturally we started jamming together. I remember the first time something clicked. We were at Goran's house with an Australian girl I'd been seeing and her friends. The night before, she'd gotten drunk and tried to strip me naked during an open mic night at the Fiddler's Elbow. I was pretty willing, and we both ended up in our underwear being kicked out in fits of laughter. We decided to start working out 3-part harmonies together. We figured out a cover of Octopus's Garden by the Beatles. And not to blow our own horns, but it sounded fucking brilliant. I remember someone walking past the house and hearing from outside, and they started to clap. Eventually the 3 of us would busk on the streets together. We all busked separately, so it made sense. Back then, I'd occasionally drag a kick and a snare drum out with me in a wheelbarrow, and I'd drum while Goran and Romain played and sang. We would always have people come up to us and they'd ask for our band name, and we never had an answer. We came up with this genius idea of forming a band.
Genius.
One of us said that we should be called the 3 Hats because there was 3 of us and sometimes we wore hats. One of us said, nah, that's shit. Eventually we settled on the Big Push and we got tighter and tighter. As my energy increased...
Three hats is kind of shit. Big Push is definitely better.
Eventually we settled on the Big Push and we got tighter and tighter. As my energy increased, I was able to do more and more. We play about 5 nights.
Man, Jennifer, I want to hear it too. You're right. Like, this heavy catalog of chapters of his life is really gonna, like, help me appreciate his music even that much more now. Like, it's like angelic. Just the whole situation, man. It's amazing.
A week in various pubs and bars in Brighton for shit money. On Saturday we'd get out onto the streets and go busking. There was just one problem. I was proper shit at drumming. The universe eventually provided us with a handsome bearded Irishman and everything fell into place.
I was just about to say, I thought there were 4 of them. Why are there only 3? Okay.
I loved those boys. We were in truest sense a rock and roll band. We got banned from playing at a few venues because we'd occasionally get carried away and break a bit too many things on stage. I got a lot of bills for microphone stands or charges for...
So the AC/DC vibe I was getting is pretty close, right?
Paint jobs where I'd any things on stage. I got a lot of bills for microphone stands or charges for paint jobs where I'd sprawled the Big Push over the walls in permanent marker pen. Life was a bit like a movie. My ambition at the time wasn't to be in the greatest band of all time or to have any kind of success. I was just so relieved to be alive and play. So every day felt like a victory. Despite this, I was still carrying a lot of symptoms with me. The pain in my legs never stopped. The buzzing in my feet never relented. My vision was still blurry. I'd still get days where I was so foggy that it was hard to communicate. One day after a gig with the Big Push, being overstimulated triggered a very temporary jolt back into psychosis, and I found myself lying on a table in the pub, repeating the same sentence over and over again for about 10 minutes, while surrounded by a very concerned group of onlookers. I came to, in tears, and I quickly left in embarrassment. If I didn't stick to my diet of about 5 different things, I'd be trapped in bed again, but it was okay. I was willing to hurt if it meant I could participate in life again, and I intended to live the fuck out of it. I met this beautiful Spanish girl one night after playing at a local pub.
See, man, he is truly the epitome of being not taking things for granted because of what he's been through. Like, he is really appreciating just even the smallest things, being able to like just walk around and do stuff. Like,
and I fell instantly in love. She had this beautiful blonde.
If only we all could have that without having to go through what he's gone through, you know. But unfortunately, that's what it takes sometimes.
Curly hair and was wearing dungarees, and I was enamored with her from the first moment I saw her, and she didn't make it easy, which made me like her even more. I'd write her poetry, invite her to shows, and attempt to be funny. She knew me as the local slut, which didn't really make things very easy, but with time she could see that I genuinely cared about her, and I did, a lot. One time we snuck into a cinema together, and I proceeded to climb onto what I thought was the stage below the screen to put on a show for her as she sat alone in the aisles cheering. What I didn't know was that stage wasn't a stage, it was a 6-foot drop. I confidently put my feet on thin air, and then I fell, smashing my face onto the corner of a railing on the way down, seeing a flash of white light and regaining consciousness with her rolling around in fits of laughter on the floor.
Dude, Ren, you just got a concussion, bro. You just got your bell rung. You just got a concussion.
She was intelligent, creative, unusual, and beautiful. I carried a lot of trauma with me into that relationship. Relationships generally didn't feel safe for me. She was briefly diagnosed with BPD, which later turned out to be a misdiagnosis, and I had major trust issues from my last relationship, which had grown into commitment issues. It was a bit of a recipe for disaster, but we loved each other very intensely and very dysfunctionally until we couldn't. I wish I'd been able to surrender. It was a bit Sid and Nancy, very dramatic to say the least, and I won't get into it for her sake, but it was beautiful.
Sid and Nancy? The Sex Pistols? Is that Sid and Nancy? Yeah, they were like, they were like a bad couple, like they were like dysfunctional or something. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And I loved her very much. It taught me a lot. I learned that the echoes of the past had shaped me into something that I struggled to be.
Toxic, yeah, okay.
I envied the people who could jump into relationships and feel safe or content. I wondered if it was because I had to watch my mum and dad fighting till their marriage crumbled when I was a kid. If it was because I'd learned as a child that I had to be independent because external love was inconsistent. I wondered if it was because I'd been too late to save Joe. I wondered if it was because I was forced to live most of my adult life in isolation. I wondered if it was to do with my past relationships. I didn't know, but I felt confused and I felt angry with myself. I knew I wanted to surrender to love, to feel truly worthy of it, but every time I tried I felt discontent and unsettled, like the security of love was something I wanted to escape. The thought of ending up in a white picket fence house with my perfect family felt like prison. After 8 long years of being tethered to a body in pain, I wanted to be liberated from any sort of attachment. Any sort of predictability of the future after a life of torturous monotony made my stomach feel like I'd swallowed cinder blocks. When I felt someone's love, I had to fight the urge to run and keep moving, but paradoxically still desperately wanted to be loved. And I loved to love. And I loved her. That discontent was something to stop with me, and it hasn't made relationships easy. Around 2018, I'd reconnect with Sam. He was in his 20s now, so I felt far less weird about hanging out with a teenage boy. During this time, we wrote a few songs together. Blind Eyed, What Went Wrong, and Same Old Situation. All bangers, by the way. It was April, and we were shooting a video for What Went Wrong.
I guess I gotta check those out at some point. I just gotta add it to the long list of music I gotta check out now.
We were using my friend Josh's car, and there was a scene where we needed a smashed up bonnet. But it went outside of the budget we had to pay for the video, so me and Sam decided to go busking to raise the money. I promise what follows is the truth. We never rehearsed Blind Eyed live before, but while we were out on the street, I turned to him and I asked if we should play it. I started playing the first chord that made sense without even thinking. It started in B minor in this kind of reggae way that was totally different to the original recording. Somehow, it was totally fucking magic. The whole street stopped. Sam was hitting notes and runs that seemed outside of the reach of a mere mortal. Luckily, Sam Perry Falvey, who films the videos, was with us, and he captured the whole thing on camera.
That looked like, that scene looked like one of, like Ren has, I've looked at Ren's popular videos, and this scene right here.
In the first chord that made sense without even thinking. It started in B minor in this kind of reggae way that was totally different to the original recording.
When he's wearing this, like, is that Miami Dolphins jersey or something? Like, I think that is one of his most popular viewed videos.
He films the videos, was with us, and he captured the whole thing on camera.
Yeah, okay. I gotta check that out then.
Before this moment,
So
I kind
much
of
to
surrendered
do.
to the fact I probably wouldn't have a career in music again.
No!
I was doing it for me. I was doing it to celebrate being alive. The week after the video shoot, me and Sam decided to go busking again because it had felt so good. Someone filmed us covering a version of Vera Hall's Trouble So Hard. And posted it to a Mexican restaurant
Nobody knows my oh my god.
page on Facebook. It was the first thing that I'd done since returning to the land of the living that went viral, and it went very viral. It started being shared everywhere by millions of people. 2 weeks after that, another cover of us performing was circulating the internet. That went viral too. By the time we released the busking version of Blind Eyed, the internet went crazy. My social media following started exploding. People like Elton John were talking about us on the radio. People would fly in from all over the world just to watch us perform on the street. By the end of summer 2018, we were shutting down entire high streets because of...
Would you be willing to do a Big Push song before we leave? I could try it. I feel like my stream's gonna get like shut down again though. I would almost rather just record my reaction and post it like I have been. But I could try it. I don't know.
the volume of people coming. By the end of summer 2018, we were shutting down entire high streets because of the volume of people coming to watch us perform. There was something magic about the synergy of me and Sam that stopped people in their tracks. We were being tagged in videos from all over the world of people listening to Blind Eyed. People were listening from war zones, from rocket launch sites, from deep in jungles. It was surreal, and it was incredibly affirming. It was a second chance.
Did I see a bong there? People are watching it while they're smoking their bong in their kitchen.
Jungles. It was surreal. And it was incredibly affirming. It was a second chance. And I didn't think I'd get a second chance. The shared out with Sam was special. A lot happened after that. More love, more heartbreak, more health complications, more healing, more setbacks, more parties, more medications, sold out shows, frustrations with the music industry, betrayals, theft, friends lost to addiction. My health would take me on more journeys into foreign countries, #1 albums, awards, a pandemic, meeting idols, making money, losing money. But I'll save all that for another time. It's fitting that this story ends here. Trouble So Hard by Vera Hall has always resonated with me very deeply. She was the daughter of a slave, navigating a hostile 1940s America, something I'll never be able to relate to. The pain and simplicity of the line, "Don't nobody know my troubles but God," was one that seemed universal to all struggles. And it was a line I was always deeply connected to. If there is a God...
You have to direct your troubles. Troubles? Most people won't see the reaction if they do that. I know. Yeah, guys. I think I'm going to do it separately. Also, yeah, it's getting kind of late for me here. I've been streaming for 3.5 hours. Sorry, guys. You know what? It'll make it even sweeter, though. When you guys see me, when I post... Silly Wabbit, my PayPal link? Oh my god. Dude. Let me put it... If you go to Twitch... Well, I don't know. You probably don't have a Twitch. I have my PayPal on my Twitch, but I don't have it on my YouTube yet. That actually means a lot, because I recently lost my job. So, like... I'll try to put my PayPal on my YouTube. I'll try to figure out how to do that after this. After I get dinner ready and stuff. Yeah, because I got to make dinner and stuff. I got to, like, do stuff. I got to, like, be a human and stuff. But it'll make the reactions to the Big Push songs and Troubles. I'll try to do Troubles, like, really soon, like, tomorrow or something. Or maybe later tonight. Thanks, Kitty. Oh, thank you, Wabbit. That means so much. Thank you, Silly Wabbit. Thank you guys. Oh my god, you guys are awesome. It'll be that much sweeter when y'all see my my Twitches should be on my YouTube. Should be on my homepage, I think, already. My Twitch account. But if you guys have a Twitch, feel free to follow me, and my PayPal link is on my Twitch. Thanks, Josh. Dude, you got... It means so much to me that you guys are, like, vibing with me, and it, like, that I'm able to connect with you guys and like, feel seen and heard, and, like, you guys, like, we just have this connection to, like, great music. You have IG? Alright, yeah, my IG is more of my gaming stuff. But, I'll add my PayPal to my YouTube. You guys are too kind, man. Let's finish this here.
And it was a line I was all I'll never be able to relate to. The pain and simplicity of the line.
Oh my god, man. You guys are melting me with your comments, man. You're literally melting me.
Don't nobody know my troubles but God was one that seemed universal to all struggles. And it was a line I was all...
Oh, someone just followed me on Twitch. Because I have my alert box in here still, even though I'm not live on Twitch. Thank you for the follow, guys. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I don't really stream. I stream Fortnite. I stream Fortnite on Twitch. So, like, if you're not into gaming, don't feel free to, like, not watch me play video games. But I also really love music, so...
Always deeply connected to. If there is sort of all struggle of the line,
finish this. We got
don't nobody know
left.
my troubles but God was one that seemed universal to all struggles.
Rising tide.
And it was a line I was always deeply connected to. If
Thanks,
there is
Alex.
a God, I want to thank you for giving me the resilience to be able to sit down here and to tell my story today. I hope it's far from over.
Oh my god, you guys. Thank you so much for the follows on Twitch. Bro, guys. I'm not going to be able to get through this.
Sit down here and to tell my story today. I hope it's far from over, and I hope that this is just chapter 1. Thank you, everybody, for giving me the space to share my story with you. For everybody still in the dark,
Thank you.
Trust, hope, and dare to dream that you can get out of it too. I love you all, and thank you for supporting me like you have.
Dude, I resonate with that so much, man. Dare to dream. I love you, Ren. Pew, pew, pew.
Go through it.
Pew, pew, pew. I like that. Guys, thank you for the follows, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anchor. What does that say? Anchor Dog? Oh my god. Do you do music on Twitch? You can do lives without being dinged on Twitch. Yeah, I know. I just have my alert box here still, like, up. I could hide it, but I just didn't hide it yet. Yeah, usually I'm gaming on Twitch and TikTok, but YouTube I'm doing music reactions. And then he released. You're welcome, Kitty. Thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun. Maybe every once in a while. So I've seen, like, Ren's done some interviews that I've watched well, I haven't watched, but, like, I've seen it on my recommended. Like, he has, like, a Knox Hill interview that I haven't seen, and, like, maybe a couple other interviews. Like, maybe I'll just once in a while, every other weekend or something, maybe I'll hop on here and stream my reaction to some guys. Thank you for the follows. I'll hop on and, like, stream my reaction to some longer content. So, Ren goes live on Twitch after a song drop. Oh, that's good to know. I'll have to go follow him on Twitch. This was amazing, guys. You guys are showing me more love than I could have ever asked for. And I just want you to know that it's reciprocated, and this is, like, amazing. I love that we're all able to connect through something so positive. And it's really just heartwarming, you know? It's very inspiring. And I can't thank you guys enough. Oh, thank you. Bro, thank you guys for the follows on Twitch. Thank you so much. I'm really trying to get affiliated on Twitch too, which is proving harder than it should be, but all right. I love you guys. Thanks for rocking with me this whole time. I was not expecting this many people to be here watching these with me. And now I have such a deep appreciation, as if I didn't already, for Ren. And it makes me think back to when I first watched Hi Ren and like how much I missed, but also how much I was able to pull from it and like get the idea of what Ren's about and everything, you know? There are two, one from the album drop from Knox Hill and the other from the songs interview. Okay. Yeah, so maybe we'll do another live stream like next weekend or something and watch some more like longer form Ren content stuff. Stick Boy Renegade. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to try to post this video for anybody who wasn't here for the live that wants to watch it, or anybody who missed anything near the beginning or something and wants to watch with us. You'll be able to see the chat and everything, so this was a lot of fun. Ginger Menace, thank you so much. You did? Thank you so much. Wow. That means a lot. You are... I can't thank you enough for that. Thank you so much. All right, guys. I'm gonna have to cut it here. As much as I want to keep doing this was a lot of fun. I love hanging out with you guys. This was so much fun. I gotta end it though. So I hope you guys have a great day, night, whatever part of the world you're in. You know, peace and love to you guys. I hope wellness and health, and much love, man. Thank you guys for rocking with me. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace out.